time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Thursday midday edition of the New Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. So ends a very, very, very busy week for us.
TGIT.
TGIT. That's right. Yes, had a very special day on the Jimmy Dore Show yesterday. Interviewed Professor Syed Mohammed Marandi under very extraordinary circumstances, which was really an effort to put together. So thanks once again to Jimmy's amazing team for making that happen. It was definitely, it definitely weighed on us, the seriousness of doing that and having to do that under those circumstances. And so, yes, that was something. And the clips are pretty much all out, as I understand. They all dropped to Rumble this morning, and they should be rolling out to YouTube pretty quickly. And so you check that out if you can. That was a great show.
And that is just amazing what he's doing. You know, he's taking a real risk. The security people don't want him carrying his phone, but he wants to get the word out of what's happening, and he's literally put his life in his hands. He said he's staying separate from his family, so that in case he gets targeted, they don't get caught as collateral damage.
Yeah, it's just it's a horrible situation to be in, but he's very, very brave. And so, yes, please do check that out. That was a great show yesterday. And, of course, the Misty Winston show was great last night, too, with Fiorella Isabel. That was great. So make sure you check that out on the replay on Rumble. We'll be dropping the clips of that throughout the weekend. And Misty is also in the host's chair on the Jimmy Dore Show tomorrow. So make sure you check that out as well, 4 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be a great show over there. So make sure you all tune in for that. So, yeah, I mean, there was Due Dissidents programming all week this week.
All week.
Look. So, yes.
We were competing with Misty.
Yeah, last night we were actually going head-to-head with the Misty Winston show. So, great to see you all in here. Nice crowd to start things off. 693 strong in the YouTube chat, 463 strong over on Rumble. Great to see all of you here today. All right, folks, we are going to jump right in. Got lots to cover as always. So we have another update in the mayoral primary in New York City, which is coming up in just 5 days. Palantir has weighed in. Who do you think they endorsed?
You know, Andrew Cuomo is attracting all the best people. He's bringing all the best people to his campaign. And what does that tell you? If we know Democrat voters in New York, which is literally the shitlib homeworld, New York is probably, I would say, worse than LA in terms of being like the highest concentration of shitlibs per capita.
I would say, it is. It's probably worse because the LA libs, they do it to be trendy. The New York libs fancy themselves intellectuals. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's that intellectual snootiness.
Well, there's the pseudo-intellectual thing. There's the old money.
Right. In
know,
LA, they just do it for the
yeah.
green juice. It's all about the green juice. That's
It's
all
all
they really
it's
care
all
about.
about the green juice. It's all about the flag, all that, the pride flag, all that kind of thing. Although that goes a pretty long way too here too. You have a certain kind of rich old mummy on the Upper West Side and the Upper East Side that is really unique to New York. This is largely where my impersonation comes from of the Hillary voters I encountered in 2016 because they sent me out to canvass the Upper West Side and I got like assailed. It was like the scene in A Clockwork Orange where the old men beat him up after he gets the Ludovico treatment. I just had these old ladies descend on me. Hillary's the only one who can win. She's the only one who can win. It was horrifying. Very hard to beat those people in this town.
Mm-hmm.
Palantir CEO throws money behind Andrew Cuomo in NYC mayoral race. All the best people. Here is the aforementioned CEO, Alex Karp. This is a shareholders call. This is an earnings call in which he's elated about the fact that they're killing people. So it's not clear, but a lot of people speculate this may be the first time in an earnings call, a CEO has bragged about how the company is killing people.
As always, we have a lot of individual investors on the line. Is there anything you'd like to say before we end the call?
We're doing it. We're doing it. And I'm sure you're enjoying this as much as I am. Let's not talk to analysts about the burden of being right, our burdens of investing in ontology, our burdens of actually looking at the math, the burden of reading what the Rule of 40 is, the burden of being honest about what an enterprise software company is, or the burden of explaining to your friends that you're really happy. Maybe we should just stop talking about it. I'm very happy to have you along for the journey, and you are partners for us. Every Palantirian, we are crushing it. Everyone else who's listening, we are dedicating our company. We have dedicated our company to the service of the West and the United States of America, and we're super proud of the role we play, especially in places we can't talk about. And we love our success in the U.S. and globally. Also, we are doing in the United Kingdom and many other places. Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world, and when it's necessary, to scare enemies and on occasion kill them. And we hope you're in favor of that. We hope you're enjoying being a partner, and we're really happy and very, very focused on what we're doing. Thank you for your time.
Thank
nice
you.
guy.
That concludes Q&A for today's call.
That concludes Q&A for today's call. All right, no more questions? All right. 5 o'clock somewhere. Yeah. That's all for today.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Yeah. That's kind of amazing. So, Marvel and DC have different kinds of villains, broadly speaking. Marvel tends to go with kind of cosmic Galactus, Thanos, these cosmic horror kind of villains. And I guess because of the Lex Luthor thing, like DC has always tended to go more for the super genius invention types. This guy, like James Gunn, has really missed the boat not making Alex Karp the villain in the upcoming Superman movie. That guy is a total DC style supervillain.
Yes.
Hey, he backs Andrew Cuomo. No surprise there. This is Jason Bassler. There's a very high likelihood that Palantir's Gotham software assisted in Israel's strike on Iran yesterday. We should no longer ignore how deeply Palantir has embedded itself into the global architecture of surveillance, military operations, and domestic policing. Here, that's over an article from Bloomberg. Thiel's Palantir, Israel, agree strategic partnership for BattleTech, and they are using Palantir's AI systems for targeting there. But according to friend of show Alex Jones, nothing to worry about. They're small. Palantir's so small you could drown them in a bathtub. They're not the ones you really have to worry about. This headline has made the rounds, rather terrifying. The U.S. will very likely fight a three-front war against Russia, China, and Iran, Palantir's Alex Karp said. Now, I think the reason, any geopolitical analyst could have said something like this. I think the reason it's so disturbing coming from him is you get the sense this is the outcome he's cheering for. And through his company, probably actively trying to instigate that this maniac in control of this company that has basically become the de facto outsourcing of intelligence gathering and data analysis of the CIA and the deep state. He has one of these kind of millennial visions of a clash of civilizations where his company represents the West in a battle against the evildoer. I mean, if you listen to this guy's interviews, that basically seems to be his fantasy. Politico notes that Karp recently donated $90,000 to fix the city, which is backing Cuomo's campaign. That's basically the New York version of a super PAC. It's called something else, but it's basically a super PAC.
Right.
The contribution further cements a picture of Karp's politics that leans rightward, though Karp has in the past referred to himself by a variety of political labels, even calling himself a socialist or a neo-Marxist. We can surely call BS on that now, since Karp is currently using his money to defeat an actual socialist. Indeed, Karp is just one of several billionaires who are pouring money into Cuomo's campaign in an apparent effort to stave off a more populist form of government in the city. One of those aforementioned billionaires is Mike Bloomberg, who famously hated Cuomo when he was in office as mayor. But hey, well, enemy of my enemy and all that. This guy wants to freeze the rent. Fine, I'll back the sex criminal. Bloomberg has given $5 million to the pro-Cuomo super PAC, the largest infusion of cash yet for the PAC. Despite Cuomo's promise to fight Trump, a number of MAGA fixtures like Trump fan Bill Ackman have thrown their support behind the former governor. Cuomo's campaign has rested on a series of vague promises about improvements for city services and the bragging point that he knows how government works. Of course, NYC is a city where Republicans have a tough time in modern politics, so the Democratic primary is where the action is. Mamdani, meanwhile, has championed many leftist economic policies, including the establishment of government-owned and operated supermarkets to bring down food prices. He has also championed rent freezes in a city where the cost of living just keeps going up. Yeah, we covered that the other day. I think the average rent in New York now is around $4,600. It's hit a record 3 times this year. Cuomo notably served as the governor of New York from 2011 until 2021, when his administration combusted as a result of several scandals, including allegations of sexual harassment leveled against him by former female aides. A criminal case against Cuomo was brought over the allegations, but the charges were dropped in January of 2022, with authorities citing a lack of evidence. Palantir, meanwhile, has increasingly wedded itself to the Trump administration and is assisting the government with its deportation efforts, as well as in a controversial data centralization effort that has drawn criticism from privacy and civil liberties advocates. All right, so this is a pie chart of who's contributing to Cuomo's campaign. Real estate, almost 30% of the donations to his super PAC. A healthy almost 23% is coming from the finance industry. Other, I guess, that's scumbags like Bloomberg and Bill Ackman, and now Alex Karp are filling in the other. He's doing pretty well with ride delivery too, almost 10% with ride delivery. Now, the New York Post is supposed to represent the, conservative Rupert Murdoch media. But the New York Times is in full agreement with them that Mamdani must not be the mayor. It is a big club, folks, and you ain't in it. And next time you see a bunch of Democrats talking about black and brown people and talking about Me Too, remember, the person that they are backing tacitly, if not openly, in some cases, the New York Times tacitly endorsed him without saying the words, "We endorse Andrew Cuomo." This is a guy who sued for the gynecological records of the 13 women who accused him of sexual harassment and sexual assault. They held up Michael Bloomberg, who is donating to Cuomo, as an ideal of liberal governance. This is the guy who famously had a stop and frisk policing policy that, of course, as with all such policies, was disproportionately acted out on non-white people. What do you think happens? You create a policy like that. They're going to go to the Upper West Side, the Upper East Side. They're going to start throwing rich white kids against a wall and frisking them. Of
Right.
course, they are only going to do that to people whose daddies don't have a family lawyer that's going to sue your ass off and send you out to work the beat in Staten Island for the rest of your career, right? They're only going to fuck with people with no money and no power. That's who the New York Times held up in their anti-Mamdani non-endorsement as a good example of what a mayor of New York should be. In the end, the Bill Ackmans and the Alex Karps and the Michael Bloomberg, whatever minor disagreements they might have publicly, usually over cultural issues, which are the only things they can afford really to litigate in public. In the end, they are of the same class. And when there is a threat to their class, like Mamdani, they are of one voice. You can see it right here. It's kind of a microcosm of how the establishment works. In the end, what we are finding with Donald Trump is, this is a much more caricaturized version of what the case was in the first term. Their issue isn't really his policies. Their issue is his manners. In the end, they tend to support very similar policies. They don't like the way he goes about it, and they don't like the incompetence with which he executes a lot of it.
Well, it's very masked off in that sense because, what the papers were all saying at the beginning of the primary, and it seemed like this was true. And it still probably is true if you were to poll the average Democrat voter. What are you most looking for in a mayor? Standing up to Trump, I'm sure ranks number one, right? And the idea that Trump was going to loom large over this primary was what everybody was talking about, and that made perfect sense to me. And part of why I thought Cuomo was going to win is because I thought that so many New Yorkers would think that he's big enough, strong enough, and enough of an asshole, frankly, to stand up to Donald Trump. Whereas a guy like Mamdani would be very much like a Michelle Wu type in Boston, like a perfect foil to MAGA, where they would, just pick on this non-white mayor with their progressive policies, that's destroying the city with illegal immigrants and, support for the, radical campus protesters. I think a lot of New Yorkers don't want that fight on their hands. They say they want to stand up to Trump. They want a big brash asshole who's going to stand up to Trump. They don't want a progressive who's going to invite the ire of MAGA. So that rationale made sense to me. Here you're really pushing it to an extreme, though, where you got guys like Bill Ackman and now Alex Karp of Palantir lining up behind Cuomo, when, don't forget, they have an alternative in the race. Eric Adams is still running. Eric Adams is not out of the race, and Eric Adams is helping Trump in the deportation. So what does it say to you that Palantir, who's assisting in the deportation effort, chose Andrew Cuomo over the mayor, who's literally being coerced by the Trump administration into assisting with the deportation effort? I mean, they literally what did they do? They dropped the charges against him. I was going to say pardon, but he's not convicted. They dropped the charges against him in exchange for helping them deport immigrants. So if Palantir is also in the business of helping Trump deport immigrants, you'd think they have their candidate in the race. It's Eric Adams, but no, it's Andrew Cuomo. So like I said, you're really pushing this to a point where it's just comical. Like, in what sense is Trump, in what sense is Cuomo now the anti-Trump choice? Well, in no sense, except for what you said, in terms of manners. And even in terms of manners, he's not that different. He's got assault charges. Trump's got assault charges. Like you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. But these are Democratic primary voters. This is how useless they are. Like, none of this fucking gets through. And Mamdani, God bless him, is getting close. But, latest polling shows him, still down high single digits, low double digits when the counting's done, and we're 5 days out. So it's going to take a big turnout push. It's going to take a whole lot. And not to mention the fact that even if Mamdani wins the primary, Cuomo is promising to stay in and run as an independent. So what you have to ask yourself, too, if you're supporting Mamdani, is why hasn't Mamdani made the same promise yet?
Right.
Like, why is it that the centrists, when India Walton beat Byron Brown in Buffalo, he stayed in and the general ran as an independent, as a write-in, as an independent, and beat her by a landslide. So why is it that the party loyalists, the centrists, who always complain that the progressive insurgents are ruining the party and destroying unity within the party, why is it that when they get upset and lose in a primary, they're willing to run independent, but none of these progressive insurgents are? Why hasn't Mamdani said, you know what, if I lose, I'm running as an independent, because Cuomo made the same promise?
Never.
So this is a competition for that Democrat ballot line, which is valuable in New York City. Okay, but if I lose, I'm staying in. Why don't they promise the same thing? And if Mamdani comes up short in the primary on Tuesday, which is still a likelihood at this point, not a certainty, far from a certainty, but a likelihood, will he stay in as an independent? And if not, why not? You have to ask yourself that. Why is Cuomo the one who's willing to run independent if he loses, but never the so-called wreckers and insurgents?
Because in the end, as we've seen again and again, they don't really care if a Republican wins. They do care if a genuine progressive wins. They care if an actual reformer wins. You want to go in there and you want to play wrecker as a centrist, and in the end, they're going to wind up with a centrist, or a centrist, as they call it. It's really right wing, but okay, using their terms. Or a Republican, even. They don't give a shit. You start really messing with things and running as a genuine populist, and start messing with the idea that that energy can only be contained within the Democratic Party. You start getting that kind of a movement. That's a real threat. A centrist running as an independent against the doesn't matter for them.
Matter. Right.
Doesn't matter who wins. So at that point, you don't torture relationships that way, because they don't really care. And that's why I said with Mamdani from the beginning, he gives me DSA vibes. He gives me AOC vibes. I got to give credit to anybody. And not only is this the shitlib homeworld, it is the Zionist homeworld within any place outside of Israel. You will not find more Zionists, because you won't find more Jews anywhere else in the world. To stick to your guns on that and not go with a mealy-mouthed, I believe in a two-state solution thing. That's why we endorsed him, but we emphatically said, don't start giving money. We're not saying give money. We're not saying volunteer. This is why. Because whatever his intentions are, he's running as a Democrat. And we know the Democratic Party does not allow people like Mamdani to get anywhere. If by some chance you overcome the issue with the voters, look what they did with David Hogg. David Hogg won an election, and they found some procedural way to overturn it and hold another election. This is what they do, because it is not a political party. It is a jobs program for elites. They don't care about doing anything for people. They don't care about policy. They only care about holding on to their power. That's why they're so immune to losing elections, because it's not about that. For them, they would much rather lose an election than lose the ideological argument. They lose that argument, the grift is up.
That's right. Michael Castillo says, good afternoon, gentlemen. Nick Cruz and Nico House said the BB's hiding in a bunker in Greece as his country's being obliterated. Free Palestine. Thank you, Michael Castillo. Yep, he did flee to Greece. A great leader, that guy. Peter Monahan. Hey, Peter. Good to see you in the chat there. Good morning, DD family. I'm doing well. Go in on Friday for a CAT scan to see if the cancer is back. Hopefully it comes back negative. Can't wait to see what the boys have to say today. Please clap. Well, thank you, Peter. Hearts in the chat for Peter. We hope that is negative as well. That is, I don't want to say exciting because we'll wait with bated breath, but please do let us know. And Godspeed, my friend. The People Infinite said Kit's stream got taken down. Y'all be careful. Yeah, I saw that. I actually called Kit when I found that out, and he was still on the air. He's still on Rumble, but he had a video playing, so he took my call anyway. Yeah, I don't know what happened. It's some kind of copyright thing. He suspects it was the Tucker Carlson thing. We have that coming up later in the show. We never had a problem with that stuff before. We ran it through copyright this morning, so we do a copyright check if there's any doubt, and it cleared. So I don't know what that could have been, but you never know. Things are very random here. But apparently his channel's still cool. It wasn't a strike or anything. It was just a suspended live stream or something. Fat Not So Fat, thanks for the $4.99. It would be the world of irony if this war in Iran ends up being like Russia in the 90s. In Afghanistan, end of empire moments. Thank you for that. Killer Hinton says, been blowing through Dexter, and it was pulled without warning from Netflix today when I was 17 episodes away from the end. This is an unsatisfactory state of affairs. Hamas is probably to blame. Well, if it's any consolation, the finale to that was really brutally horrible.
I was just going to say they probably did you a big favor, but you know what kind of redeemed it? They did that kind of Dexter miniseries.
The epilogue thing. Yeah, that was not bad.
That was actually good, and it was good that they did that because the ending of the series was so awful that they took a second stab at it, so to speak. And
I still didn't like the ending of that. I still didn't like the ending of that.
I like the ending of that.
Yeah. Someone who I was a PA with on an independent film was the editor of most of that miniseries. So they got to know all the spoilers in advance. But yeah, that was, I mean, I didn't think that was great. It was certainly much better than the last season of Dexter. The last season of Dexter is brutal. Eric Rousseau, is it just me or was it really enjoyable to watch Tucker make Ted Cruz squirm and fluster? Yes, it absolutely was. Ted Cruz has definitely never been. That's right. We must fight Iran because the Bible, Ted Cruz. Yes, thank you. Appreciate that very much. All right, we got another update from George from Haifa. Doing okay. Back to the gardens. They have shelters. Attacks are increasing and intensifying. International media is now banned in Haifa. Haifa port needs tidying up. Weren't there anti-war protests in Haifa that got cracked down on? Russ, you sent me a story about that that we were considering for today.
Yes.
Were you at those protests, George? You seem like the type who would go to an anti-war protest in Haifa.
Yeah, they wore "Stop the War" T-shirts and got arrested.
And
there's also reporting. I decided not to do it because Breaking Point's covered it pretty thoroughly. We didn't really have anything to add to the story, but that they're stopping Israelis from leaving the country because they want to use them as human shields. They want to use them as cannon fodder.
Yeah.
And as we've been saying all along, hey man, Israelis are not going to live in this. They're not going to live in this. As this country gets reduced to really third world conditions of economic depression, people who, especially because so many Israelis have dual citizenship, they have the option of going to other countries to an unusual degree.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Indeed. All right. Let's move right on along here. All right, folks, this is a follow-up to a piece that we did on Tuesday, the Trump versus Tulsi saga, if you will. So Politico had some inside reporting here. Inside the clashes between Trump and Gabbard, as President Donald Trump privately mulled joining Israel's campaign against Iran this month, one member of his cabinet sent what he viewed as an audacious attempt to steer him in the opposite direction. At 5:30 a.m. on June 10th, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard tweeted a cryptic 3-minute video warning that political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers and that the world is on the brink of nuclear annihilation. You mean the political elite who you work for? You mean your boss?
Yeah,
That
those
political
people.
elites? Yeah. Let's take a look at this video just to see what they're referencing here. So this came out on the 10th of June.
Visited Hiroshima in Japan and stood at the epicenter of a city that remains scarred by the unimaginable horror caused by a single nuclear bomb dropped in 1945, 80 years ago. It's hard for me to find the words to express what I saw, the stories that I heard, the haunting sadness that still remains. This is an experience that will stay with me forever. This attack obliterated the city, killed over 300,000 people, many dying instantly while others died from severe burns, injuries, radiation sickness, and cancer that set in the following months and years. Nagasaki suffered the same fate. Homes, schools, families, all gone in a flash. The survivors, the hibakusha, they carried the pain of extreme burns, radiation sickness, and loss for decades. Survivors of this attack were asked to put in paintings and drawings their own memories and how they felt and what they saw, and those paintings and the suffering that they conveyed, the pain and the sense of loss were almost more powerful than the photos themselves. Yet this one bomb that caused so much destruction on Hiroshima was tiny compared to today's nuclear bombs. The bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima had a yield of just 15 kilotons of TNT, whereas today's nuclear warheads range in size from 100 kilotons to over 1 megaton. A single nuclear weapon today could kill millions in just minutes. Just one of these nuclear bombs would vaporize everything at its core: people, buildings, life itself. The shockwave would crush structures miles away, killing and maiming countless people. And then comes the fallout. Radioactive poison spreading through the air, water, and soil, condemning survivors to agonizing deaths or lifelong suffering. A nuclear winter could follow, with smoke and ash completely blocking the sun, plunging the world into darkness and cold, killing crops and starving billions. Acid rain would scar the earth, wiping out entire ecosystems. This isn't some made-up science fiction story. This is the reality of what's at stake, what we are facing now. Because as we stand here today, closer to the brink of nuclear annihilation than ever before, political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers.
Political elite.
Perhaps it's because they are confident that they will have access to nuclear shelters for themselves and for their families that regular people won't have access to. So it's up to us, the people, to speak up and demand an end to this madness. We must reject this path to nuclear war and work toward a world where no one has to live in fear of a nuclear holocaust.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to withhold reaction to that so we get a little more context here. So apparently, according to this report,
Look, man, someone needs to tell her that is not how you make money on OnlyFans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a little too dark. Trump saw the unauthorized video and became incensed, complaining to associates at the White House that she had spoken out of turn, according to 3 people familiar with the episode, 2 of them inside the administration, and all granted anonymity to describe the sensitive dynamics. Her post came a few days after Israel hawks met with Trump at the White House to lobby him to support Israel's attacks on Iran. In the eyes of Trump and some close to him, Gabbard was warning him not to green-light Israel attacking Iran. Trump even expressed his disapproval to her personally, 3 people said. I don't think he dislikes Tulsi as a person, but certainly the video made him not super hot on her. And he doesn't like it when people are off message. said one of the people, a senior administration official. The official added that Trump also doesn't appreciate it when people appear to be correcting him, and that many took the video as trying to correct the administration's position. Okay, well, her job as director of national intelligence is not to parrot the administration's position, but rather to inform the administration's position by providing them with the intelligence necessary to make the right decision from circumstance to circumstance. So it just shows, a complete disrespect for what her job is from Donald Trump. Well, you're off message. She's supposed to help shape the message. That her job is literally to gather information so that you know what the message is and should be. Her job is not to simply manipulate her findings and her words to suit your message, which of course she did after she was called out about this in private, I guess, because we know based on the last segment we did, she came out and said, no, I never said that Iran wasn't developing a nuclear weapon. You guys just didn't pay attention to the whole quote of what I said there. So Trump's reaction to the video, which has not been previously reported, underscores a widening gap between a president on the brink of potentially joining Israel's war and his anti-interventionist intelligence chief, who in the past has been adamantly against U.S. engaging in new foreign conflicts. Instead, the man Gabbard endorsed on the campaign trail. Indeed, the man Gabbard endorsed on the campaign trail, who spoke of ending the Ukraine-Russia war on day one and ushering in a new era of peace, is striking a different tone from her now that he's sitting behind the Resolute desk. Yes, I'll say, and don't forget, this was Donald Trump's refutation of her previous findings when asked, hey, Tulsi Gabbard said just a few months ago that Iran's not building a nuclear weapon. What do you have to say about that?
Do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it.
I don't care what she said. Yes, that was his line when push came to shove. So video of Trump's comments about Gabbard on Air Force
I saw
One,
it in a dream.
Yes, which we just showed you there, have also stirred speculation on Capitol Hill that he has lost trust in her, said one senior congressional aide. Lawmakers of both parties were sharing the video widely among themselves on Tuesday morning, said the aide, who was granted anonymity to share details of private conversations. This is not just like the hawkish camp, the person said. This is every single member sending it around. Even people who agree with Gabbard have been worried about her influence waning. On his podcast War Room on Monday, MAGA ringleader Steve Bannon rhetorically asked his guest Tucker Carlson why Gabbard was not invited to what appears to have been a critical Camp David huddle, earlier this month, where Trump and senior officials from his CIA director to chief of staff and the vice president discussed how to posture amid Israel's looming strike. So yeah, let's take a look at this.
Gabbard not invited to the Camp David meeting all day.
You know why?
Why Tulsi Gabbard still to the American public has said the last public statement is that the program was not back up and running. And now we have from Bibi by himself on Fox by Brent Baer that the thing was 12 to 13 months away. It wasn't this weekend.
I know.
And this is by his own thing. And we also know that it was a decapitation, as we said on Friday. It wasn't just about the nuclear program. It's a decapitation of total leadership. So this is a total regime change, which, by the way, you may have a plan for regime change, is fine, but you got to bring the American people along. Let me go back.
By the way, I said that publicly last week. The point of this is regime change. I know everyone involved. I know. I'm telling the truth. I have no weird motive here at all. I don't hate Israel. I'm not.
Plus, you know the players, and you went to, and you know the Iraq situation.
This isn't a regime change effort, and why not just say that? But you're a Holocaust denier for saying that. Well, stop.
Yep, it's a regime change effort. Which may explain why she was boxed out of that meeting. Which again, there was reporting that she was shut out of that meeting. All of this is to say that she should, of course, resign. Now you have reporting that Donald Trump gave her a talking to in private. Again, the dynamic is completely the opposite. Her job is to inform the president. It's not the president's job to inform her. It's her job to gather information. That's literally the job, is to gather and curate information for the president so that the president can make decisions based on her findings, not for her to lie about her findings and twist her words about her findings to suit what the president wants. And so why did she make that video? Who knows and who cares? Again, you're going to speculate that she is an op. That to me is even more evidence that she's an op. Yeah. Put out a video about how you're really against nuclear war while the president's marching us towards nuclear war. And then what? When he gives you a talking to, what do you do at that point? At that point, you either have to double down on what you meant in that video or you have to retreat. And we know which she chose. I feel like these kinds of things, it's these kinds of moments that serve as sort of sheepdogging moments back into MAGA for the right. You know, the left has certain sheepdogs to get people back into the Democratic Party and get people back in line. I feel like a video like this serves that purpose because, well, her heart surely must be in the right place. I mean, look at this video. Right. She went to the museum. She cares so much. She's so touched by the tragedy of the Japan bombing. Surely, she has our best interest at heart. She wouldn't be there unless she felt like she could exert some influence. Well, she can't exert any influence. She was shut out of the meeting. Apparently, Donald Trump gave her a talking to, says it's your job to parrot the party line. And where is she since? If she were a person of principle, she would absolutely, given all we know now, especially according to these recent revelations, resign in protest. That's what you would do. And where is she? We haven't heard from her since that talking to, apparently, except for we're on the same page, and the people who think we weren't paying attention when I very clearly said they're not building a nuke.
Ixnay on the melting skin nay.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
I wouldn't trust Tulsi as far as I could throw her. That video is lovely, but as you say, if that's really your conviction,
what are you doing?
Well, then you can't go along with these people now. That having been said, I think what she said in that video is absolutely right. The people making these decisions, people egging this on in and out of the government, like Alex Karp, theoretically out of the government, might as well be in it. Yeah, man, these people have bunkers. We know there's been a lot of reporting on this, how they built all of these bunkers all around the world that these people would retreat to in a situation like that. Needless to say, the politicians, there are underground cities for them to go to. So yeah, the stakes are not for them what they are for us. We are closer to a nuclear war, probably. I mean, according to the what's the name of it? The scientists who keep the doomsday clock. It's the name of the organization. According to them, we're closer than we've ever been, and it certainly looks that way. Because look, okay, so we have reports that the Chinese are sending munitions to Iran, and if you look at what happened with Iraq, the idea, even if we do come in, the idea that we're just going to be able to overwhelm Iran is absurd. If you poke around, the corporate media is really not showing the extent of the devastation in Israel. Quite purposefully. You saw what they did with the Fox reporter who was showing that they hit their version of the Pentagon. They're controlling what footage gets out there. Of course, Israel hit a hospital. That was one of the first things they did. The headline today everywhere is Iran hits Israeli hospital. Now, I have no way of knowing. My guess would be when it comes to Iran, that's an accident. After watching over 20 months in Gaza, we know with Israel, that's standard operating procedure. But yeah, from a lot of what we see, Israel is not going to last long in this war. You're getting all of this reporting like, oh, Israel is devastating Iran. We couldn't devastate Iraq. You're going to devastate a place with 4 times the population that has a much larger landmass. So even if the United States does get into it, that could bring China and Russia openly off the sidelines. But even if it didn't, the idea that that would be the end of it, well, that would be the end of it if we dropped a nuke. And this is really the question. If our adversaries do come in on the Iranian side, if America is really losing under this administration, do they refrain from launching a nuke? I think of all the major actors capable of it, we're the most likely to do it. As much as they gin up this paranoia that our adversaries are madmen. No, if you look at history, if you look at the history of China militarism, the history of Russia militarism, if you look at who has bases all around the world, I think Russia has something like 42 total military
It's a very,
bases.
very small number, yeah.
We have hundreds. Who's more likely to say, I'm not taking the L, I'm dropping the nuke? And they're gonna, we've already seen them try to do this. We've already seen them try to make the argument for a limited small scale nuclear exchange as to be winnable. That's how they would try to frame it. But yeah, it's a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely insane. And once it gets started, there's no predicting how it'll go. And nobody tells you they know how it's going to go is being honest, which makes it an all the more dangerous situation. And yeah, if she resigns, we will come on here and we will give her all the props in the world for doing that.
Sure.
Now the this is where these incentives come into play. So, she was first branded, progressive or at least anti-war left-wing figure for having backed Bernie in 2016. And then, she was, fully absorbed and welcomed into the MAGA movement. So to do that right now, to quit, would really be to go out on her own and have to earn a living as a true independent for the rest of her life. Does she want to do that? Is her conviction such that she's willing to do that in order to try and stop a nuclear war? I mean, this is where you have to just ask people.
I don't think so.
Right. Like you have to say, okay, at a certain point, are you actually serious or not? Because her walking away would be a huge gesture, because she would take a lot of MAGA with her, because there's a lot of MAGA. The way Trump won the election in 2024 was by piecing together these different coalitions who are not traditionally Republican coalitions. The Bitcoin people, the podcast bros, the Tulsi stands, the Maha thing. Like, they all came together to give him a victory. If those contingents start peeling off and pulling away, that sends his political capital into a tailspin. So it would be a huge deal for her to walk away. It would be a personal sacrifice for her to walk away. So for all this talk about nuclear war and the horrors and the dangers and how we're all going to die except the elites and the bunkers. Okay, if you really believe that, it's shit or get off the pot time. You have to resign.
Yeah, this is somebody who literally called the man that she works for Saudi Arabia's bitch.
Exactly.
And she ate those words. I do not believe Tulsi Gabbard has any convictions. I think she's an op.
Yep, I think so too. And I would love to be proven wrong. I would love for her to step away from this.
So would I.
Absolutely. All right. Let's see here. Abiding 71. LARPers really pining for the continuity of a strong DNI Bolton or Pompeo to confirm Iranian nukes. TDS. Listen, Abiding, I don't know if you're trolling at this point, but that's what you have. You have a continuity of a strong That's what she is acting as right now. I mean, she is basically a continuity of government agent who makes videos about how she feels really bad about nuclear war.
Yep.
That's what she is. Like, she's not doing anything different.
She was literally the commander of a PSYOP battalion.
Right. Exactly. Maggot, Tucker, Gaetz, MTG, Candace, all calling out Trump while we stress test Tulsi's purity. Well, if that's the way you see it, man, then I don't know what to tell you. Ken Texican, thanks for the $50. Let's have a cowbell from Ken Texican. With all due respect to Jimmy Dore Show, when minutes are available, I'd much rather be rumbling with and on Due Dissidence. Well, thank you, Ken Texican. Appreciate the kind words There's room for both. There's room
That's
for
why
both.
Baskin Robbins has 32 flavors.
Yeah, that's right. That's why Baskin Robbins has 32 flavors. All right. Appreciate that generous donation. Netanyahu today said 2,500 years ago, Cyrus freed the Jewish people. Now the Jewish people are helping the Persian people to free themselves. Can you dig it? Yeah.
Wow. Did he really say that? Did he really say that?
It's getting crazy out there. It's Vito. Kristi Noem was rushed to the emergency room, and it was observed that her lips were mysteriously deflating. Cancer sucked you guys wrong. That's right. She was rushed to the hospital. She had an allergic reaction to something. She's okay now, but it's funny. That's a good joke. When she has an allergic reaction, her lips deflate. They don't puff up. A lot of people get puffy lips when they have an allergic reaction. Hers get smaller. That's a good one, Vito.
She's never in need of a pool noodle.
That's right. What we got here? Okay, Mr. Fancy Pants, the burden of brushing your hair. My hair looks good today. Russell's looks good. The stable coin. Oh, you're talking about Alex Karp. I get that. I thought you were making fun of my hair. I think my hair looks nice today.
I mean, my hair is I usually take a shower before the show.
Yeah, your hair is orderly. Fat not so fat. So stablecoin bill passed. Good news, MAGA. You just got the beginning stages of a social credit scores. Techno-feudalism is our future. Amadeus, thanks for the $5. Do you have any idea how much power I would have to lose to become president? Lex Luthor, thank you very much. Sean Hurl says, where's Luigi? Yeah, we haven't heard much on that front recently, have we?
I was never a DC guy, but isn't that a whole storyline? Like Lex Luthor did become president in the DC universe, right?
Well, I think that's what he's referring to. I think that's a real quote, probably. Ovan the King, are you guys
from the
worried?
real Lex Luthor?
Yeah, from the real guy. Are you guys worried, since both AOC and Bernie endorse Mamdani, that they will try and sheepdog him into their way of thinking?
Yeah.
Look, I mean, I think that's probably
we're very suspicious of him.
Yeah.
Look, we're not just saying this out of self-interest. When he was at 2 to 5%, we reached out to him to come on, but it's not about that. He didn't go on anybody's show. He went on only 2 very big shows, Breaking Points and Piker, and that was a little later on. When he was at 2 to 5%, when really you should be trying to get out there among like real left progressives, it seemed like he didn't want to be associated with that. He didn't want to be connected to that. That tells you something.
Yeah, he put that video out. What really kickstarted his campaign, he put that video out that went viral where he went around Astoria interviewing Trump voters as to why they voted for Trump. And they started giving answers that made them sound like kind of Bernie progressives. And so that's kind of what thrust him into the spotlight when those videos went viral. But yeah, beyond that, look, there's certainly reasons to critique him. I do think that there is a huge difference between an anti-Zionist, anti-apartheid, one-state solution guy and Netanyahu's lawyer. I mean, that's literally the difference.
That is why we endorsed.
Yeah,
but you don't have to sell us on the idea that this guy's not, a lefty. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah, that's how we read him too.
Yeah. He's a one-state solution, anti-apartheid, anti-Zionist running against literally Netanyahu's lawyer. So that's a pretty. I mean, you can't really deny that's a huge contrast.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Matrix says sphincter knuckle buster. Thank you, Matrix. Appreciate that. All right. What do we got up here? Alex Karp is like Mark Maron meets Rain Man meets Asmodeus. Thank you, Killer Hidden. Appreciate that very much. World War III, for Zen's sake, starts at 6:30 Eastern. Trump will announce it from the Situation Room. I hope I'm wrong. Let's see. Is there an address plan this evening?
Is there an address? I haven't seen anything.
Hey, Jesus Christ, my fucking dog.
Supposedly he approved their plans, but is not signed off on executing them. Like the military's plans for how they would attack Iran.
Interesting. All right. We are going to move on along. Okay, folks, this is a pretty interesting segment here. We talked about this a little bit with Professor Mohammed Marandi on Jimmy Dore's show yesterday, but Matt Gaetz, of all people, has come out and responded to Israel's march to war and objective to pull us in on the grounds that, of course, what's the refrain? Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And Matt Gaetz first points out the hypocrisy of insisting they cannot have a nuclear weapon when a rival power like the North Koreans already have one. And, of course, more importantly, the dirty little secret, going back decades now, Israel has nuclear weapons. Israel has nuclear weapons. So let's take a look at this. This is pretty good.
This isn't about Iran's nuclear program. Here's how you know this isn't about Iran's nuclear program. We aren't taking these steps to force denuclearization where the threat is higher and the leaders are even crazier. Take North Korea. North Korea's nuclear program is a far greater threat to the United States than Iran's. It is not even close. I know, I've had the briefings. I was on the House Armed Services Committee for 8 years. Iran has neither the bomb, the delivery system, nor the re-entry vehicle that you would need for any intercontinental ballistic missile to launch and re-enter orbit.
Okay, so there you go. I mean, he's saying that right there. Boom. That's a pretty big statement in and of itself. Oh, okay. Thanks.
North Korea has all three. North Korea could launch a nuclear weapon at mainland United States today. And we've probably got the ability to knock it out of the sky, but Iran can't even get their bird in the air. Iran's Death to America chant isn't really my bag, obviously. But Kim in the Hermit Kingdom points to U.S. cities like Los
Kingdom. You're talking me all wrong. It's the wrong tone. Hermit Kingdom. Watch it there. Watch it there. Man with a young girlfriend. Talk a big game. But look, I mean, what he's saying is true. That's true.
Los Angeles and San Diego and Seattle on
they
maps,
have much stronger capabilities than Iran.
Wiping off major U.S. population centers from existence. Of course, we aren't looking to drop 100 bunker busters in the mountains of North Korea. President Trump took other brilliant diplomatic steps to constrain North Korea's hostilities. And the same could be done with Iran. But Matt, Iran has kicked out IAEA inspectors. There could be portions of their nuclear program that are secret. A nuclear secret in the Middle East. How about it? If the world is interested in a secret nuclear program in the Middle East, there is a country that won't allow any international inspectors. Israel. Israel has a nuclear weapon. Did you know that? I do. They allow no inspections. They are fully secretive and clandestine about it, and the Americans are fully aware. You know what? I don't even blame Israel for this. If they want to develop a nuclear weapon, if they had the blessing to do so secretly, I'm not in judgment of that. But to drag the world into a regime change war over secret nuclear weapons, when you have secret nuclear weapons, is a bit hypocritical. President Trump is the kind of guy who never gives up on a deal. Throughout his life, he's probably made deals and made lots of money on them, even when others walked away or didn't see value in a transaction. So here's a deal. How about Iran and Israel both give up their secret nuclear weapon programs? If Trump got that deal, he wouldn't only get the Nobel Peace Prize, they'd probably name it the Trump Peace Prize forevermore. And it's not that crazy to think about Israel denuclearizing. Look at the model in South Africa. South Africa denuclearized right before they stopped being an apartheid state.
Oh boy, he's getting the voice in the earpiece now.
And this is why he's not on Fox.
This is why he's not on Fox. This is why he's not the Attorney General too. It's also why he's not the Attorney General.
Big time. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is. That was a feint. I'm convinced they never intended to get Gaetz through.
Oh no, could you imagine this guy?
Prominent voices in Israel and America have called for Trump to recognize Israel's sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, which some people call the West Bank. If that happens, Israel will have to let the 5 to 6 million people who live there vote. And they don't want to do that. I'm not calling Israel an apartheid state. Right now, I don't think they are.
I just got word in my ear, Israel is not an apartheid state. Take that back immediately.
In fact, I just got word in my ear that they don't have a nuclear program.
Yeah.
Never mind.
These 500 milligram doses of ivermectin don't sell themselves. You cannot say that. Cannot say that. Okay? We have advertisers here.
But if they are ruling the West Bank, as the neocons would suggest, then the South Africa model for denuclearization is not totally off base.
No, it's not totally off base at all. And that line, you talk about a piece of information that everyone needs to be armed with. It is that actually the obstacle to a denuclearized Middle East is and has always been Israel. And that is a fact hidden in plain sight. By the way, just want to play, this is a brief piece of video. This is a slight off-ramp here, slight tangent, but not really. The International Atomic Energy Agency has said very, very recently that they don't believe Iran is engaged in a systematic effort to manufacture a nuclear weapon. He mentioned this briefly at the top of that report.
Important consideration. I understand what you're saying, but the fact that they continue to cite this report, based on your assessments, I mean, given what the U.S. intelligence community has been saying, and it's contradicting what the Israeli intelligence is saying, the Americans have continued to say, and Tulsi Gabbard said 2 months ago to the Senate Estimates Committee, the intelligence community has continued to say that we don't believe that Iran at this point in time is trying to weaponize. Is that your assessment as well?
Well, that was not in the same way. We have different mandate, different approach than the national intelligence of a country. For us, on the basis of our inspections, on the basis of our own evaluations, we came to the conclusion that we could not affirm that there is any systematic effort in Iran at the moment to manufacture a nuclear weapon.
There you have it. Now, let's do a little more reading here. The New York Times put out this piece just 2 days ago. As Israel targets Iran nuclear program, it has a secret one of its own. Once again, New York Times here, right? Paper of record. They're so mainstream, they won't unendorse Andrew Cuomo. The war that Israel launched against Iran seeks to take out its nuclear program, which much of the world views with alarm, and experts say is growing to the point that it could make an atomic weapon within months. Israel has its own secretive nuclear weapons program, one that it doesn't publicly acknowledge, but that some experts believe is also expanding. From an official diplomatic posture perspective, the Israelis will not confirm or deny their nuclear arsenal, said Alexander K. Balfras, a nuclear security expert at the International Institute for Strategic Studies in London. Yes, indeed. Instead, Israel has said it will not be the first country to introduce nuclear weapons to the Middle East. Introduce, in quotes. That deliberately vague wording amounts to what Mr. Balfras called an obfuscation over what is clearly an established nuclear weapons program. Israel is widely believed to have at least 90 warheads and enough fissile material to produce up to hundreds more, according to the Center for Arms Control and Nonproliferation and the Nuclear Threat Initiative. Israel is one of 5 countries, joining India, Pakistan, North Korea, and South Sudan, that is not a signatory to the UN Nuclear Nonproliferation Treaty. The agreement, which came into force in 1970, generally commits governments to promoting peaceful uses of nuclear energy and preventing the spread of nuclear weapons. Now, here's the New York Times. They put this in parentheses, by the way. Iran is a signatory to the treaty, although Israel and world powers have accused Tehran of violating it by unnecessarily enriching uranium at high enough levels to build a nuclear bomb. Okay, so they're a signatory to the treaty. Israel is not. Israel has nuclear weapons. Iran does not. But Iran is the obstacle to a denuclearized Middle East and not Israel, even though Israel won't sign the treaty and they have nuclear weapons. Israel would have to give up its nuclear weapons to sign the treaty, which recognizes only 5 countries as official nuclear states: Britain, China, France, Russia, and the U.S., the permanent members of the UN Security Council. All had detonated a nuclear weapon by 1967, the cutoff date in the treaty to qualify for the designation. Israeli leaders were intent on building a nuclear arsenal to safeguard the country's survival soon after it was founded in 1948 in the wake of the Holocaust, historical records indicate. The Israel Atomic Energy Commission was established in 1952, and its first chairman, Ernst David Bergman, said that a nuclear bomb would ensure that we shall never again be led as lambs to the slaughter, according to the Jewish Virtual Library. Israel began building a nuclear weapons development site in 1958 near the southern Israeli town of Dimona, researchers believe. A recently declassified U.S. intelligence report from December 1960 by the Joint Atomic Energy Intelligence Committee stated that the Dimona project included a reprocessing plant for plutonium production. The report concluded that the project was related to nuclear weapons. Around 1967, Israel secretly developed the ability to build nuclear explosives, according to the Arms Control Association. By 1973, the United States was convinced Israel had nuclear weapons, the Federation of American Scientists later wrote. Contrary to what Democrats like... Oh, no, wait a minute. Wrong.
I was like, that's a weird digression.
That seems like a non sequitur, yes. Seems like a bit of a non sequitur. No, this is the final slide here. Okay, so this is what Noam Chomsky referenced in a video that we played for Professor Morandi yesterday. There are UN-imposed nuclear weapon-free areas. So the following treaties govern the 5 existing nuclear weapon-free zones, and then it lists different treaties governing different parts of the world. So there are parts of the world that have treaties with each other as to, hey, this zone is going to be a nuclear-free zone. There's also the Non-Proliferation Treaty that Iran is a party to that Israel is not a party to. Israel has weapons. Why is the Middle East not one of these nuclear weapons free zones when the Arab states are willing to become one? Well, it's because Israel is not willing to become one. I mean, it's as simple as that. Israel has nukes. They will not join international agreements to disband their nuclear program because of the Holocaust. Yet we're told that Iran is the obstacle to a denuclearized Middle East. So the retort to Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon is that Iran really doesn't want a nuclear weapon, all things being equal. Morandi, we asked Professor Morandi yesterday, do you think given these circumstances Iran should build one? He said no. He still said no.
He was against it.
He was against it, which I was honestly a bit surprised by. I didn't know how he would answer that question. We thought we should give him a chance to answer the question because that's how you learn things. That's kind of what journalism is. Maybe Piers Morgan should take a page out of our book. When you let the guest answer questions,
over them,
right? When you don't just scream over people, you allow them to answer questions. You learn things about them and the perspective that they represent. I was actually a little surprised by that, but hey, I learned something. I also learned that these nuclear weapons-free zones exist. Why doesn't anybody know that? In America, that's hardly common knowledge. Nobody knows that.
No, I didn't know that until you told me.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that until fucking 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I learned about these areas of the world, South Pacific, areas throughout Asia and Africa, where these countries agree, hey, we're not engaging in this. The Middle East would be one of those, the most volatile region in the world would be one of those nuclear weapons-free zones were it not for Israel. And yet we're supposed to believe that these other powers are agitating for nuclear war. It's not the country that won't sign the Non-Proliferation Treaty. It's not the country that already has nuclear weapons. It's not the country that is stopping a nuclear weapons-free zone from taking shape in the Middle East. No, it's Iran. This is how propaganda works. It's not just what they say, it's what they don't say. These nuclear weapons-free zones, these should be common knowledge. Everyone should know about this. Because once everyone knows about that, and they know that Iran is willing to make the Middle East a nuclear weapons-free zone, well, then that's your answer right there. At the end of discussion past that point, that completely neutralizes the talking point, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. If they had their way, they wouldn't build one. It's as simple as that.
Well, this is why I asked Professor Morandi, and we spent some time on that. Are we the baddies, meaning the United States and its affiliated powers? Because the more you really look at the history beyond current events, we have been propagandized even now into the idea that, well, at worst, we've taken a wrong turn. And when you go back, we never really stood on the right side. And I'm not saying our adversaries always did, but we of the superpowers of the time, the Soviet Union and the United States, We were the ones who backed apartheid South Africa.
Yep.
The USSR supported the liberation movement. That's why South Africa has been supportive of Russia now during the Ukraine war, because they never forgot that Russia took their side against the apartheid regime. You look at the narrative we've been given, this idea that Iranians are these cartoon villains bent on destroying America and destroying the West. And you look at the reality, and Israel is the country with these nuclear weapons. Everything, and in terms of religious fanaticism, what could be more of a fanatical vision than the idea that you are entitled to ethnically cleanse a land because of Bronze Age mythology that you worship?
Right.
That and the hypocrisy of it is most Israelis are secular. That's what Ilan Pape said. Most Israelis are secular, but they all believe God gave them Palestine.
Right. Exactly. All right. What do we got here? We got Rich says that one piece of testimony where Tulsi said there's no evidence that Iran is building a bomb may be the reason we are still not at war. Everyone against the war is pointing to it. Kudos to Tulsi. Stop with the kudos to Tulsi. She took it back. She took it back. Did you know she took it back? Did you know that under pressure she said, no, you didn't listen to my whole quote?
Yep.
She took it back. And that's not why we're not at war. Listen.
What was she doing when she took it back?
Yeah, right. Exactly. What was she doing when she took it back?
What was that? Stop it. Listen, she's married, okay?
Yeah, and she's married.
Move on.
I don't know how that guy stayed with her.
She's not going to pick you. Move on.
She got this nice Hawaiian surfer guy. I'm sure that guy's a nice guy. Yeah. Her husband's like a surfer dude from Hawaii. I'm sure he's a cool guy. I'm sure that's what attracted him to her in the first place. Man, that guy.
Yeah.
That's
talk about a bait and switch.
Yeah, those are tough shoes to be in now. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she has basically reversed that stance as of now. What exactly is an op? Hillary was calling Tulsi a Russian asset back in the day. Is she not just a self-serving coward? It's possible she is. An op insinuates that she's being either manipulated or directed by, unknown deep state actors to steer people in a certain direction. That's what that means. And I think there's a good possibility of that, to be honest. Better than 50-50.
Sure. The reason we speculate that, we did an entire video about that. You can go look it up. The reason we speculate about that is she was literally the commander of a PSYOP battalion. And when you combine that with, even in the world of politics, Tulsi is unusually unprincipled in the stances that she has taken, and her being comfortable taking literally the 180-degree opposite stance to a point that it almost seems like it's beyond careerism. It could just be craven careerism. But when you have somebody who literally talked about how Trump is Saudi Arabia's bitch, talked about how he's going to get us into a war with Iran, how he was dangerously provocative, who then goes to work for the administration and is willing to as we point out, she backed down on what she said about Iran's nuclear weapons as soon as Trump told her to. Yeah, man. I mean, it could just be that she's that empty as a human being. If anything, the idea that she's an op would be giving her more credit.
Exactly. All right. So, hey, we can lighten things up for a moment. So during that segment, my wife opened the door and she gave me this. This just came
boom.
in the mail. Should we unbox this live on the air? I think we probably should, no? May as well.
Why not?
So this is our 100,000 subscriber plaque from YouTube. Just arrived while we're on the show. So let's take a look at what we got here. All right. Nice packaging. All right. They send us a nice letter on nice thick paper here. That's nice. I like that. And then here we go. Here's our plaque. Here it is, folks. Here's the YouTube plaque. But there's no stand? I got to mount this? You'd think they would send us a stand.
Oh, you got to mount it yourself?
Well, there's little mounting holes on the back, but there's no stand.
Oh, I see.
So there it is, folks. There's the YouTube
There we go.
plaque.
There we go.
Boom. There you go. YouTube royalty. Here, we'll put it here.
First of many.
Yeah, I'm going to put this plaque right there. Could come in handy on the next segment, too. Have that on the thing. Hey, don't forget, you like us, right? Yeah. Don't forget, we're in the club now, right? It's got a mirror on it, too. That's a mirror. So we'll see ourselves there. All right. Presented to due dissidents for passing 100,000. Thing's going to take a tumble off the shelf.
I mean, that's very nice.
It's very nice. It's very nice. You know, it's always been a pleasure working with YouTube. They're great to work with. They're great.
They really want to listen.
Yeah, they're very good listeners. They really treat you like a person here. You know, they really do.
They act like they really appreciate their sharecroppers in the digital commons here.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, hey, thank you guys in the audience for helping us get there. Smash that subscribe button. Yes, that is yours as much as it is ours, and it will soon be Russell. I will send that to Russ, but it'll live here for a couple shows.
I gotta send you, dude. I have the Justice League shirt for you. I have a Glenn Ross poster for you.
Oh, yeah, you got the Glenn Ross poster. That's right. Yeah, that'll be cool. Yes. Yeah, we will have a big merch trade. Yes. All right, where are we at here? We're at a big crowd in the chat right here. Let's go for 2525. We're at 2,700 strong. In the year 2525. And we're at 886 likes. All right. There we go. Woo. Yes, indeed.
Coming in on the home stretch here, man.
That's right. Coming down the home stretch, indeed. Let's see where we're at here. Skyman says Trump can't start World War III because World War III started in 2014. Checkmate, liberals. There you go. Thank you for that. Wow, that Hiroshima attack sounds awful, says China Shield. Glad we held the people who did it to account. Yes, thank you, China Shield. Appreciate that very much. It was actually Batista that tortured my dad, but I hate communists. Ted, good one, China Shield. Appreciate that very much. All right.
Is that true?
Is that true?
Was his dad tortured by Batista?
I mean, if he was tortured by anybody, it would have been Batista, right? Because how old is Cruz? He's like 55, 60 something. So his father would have been a generation before that. Would that have been pre-Castro? I think it probably would have, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, it would have to be, right? Unless he had him really young.
No. Well, no, what? The Cuban Revolution was 1960? It's 1960, right?
Yeah, so it would have had to be.
Not had to, but it's more likely.
Pretty likely, yeah. I would say that's pretty likely, right? Because Ted Cruz is born when? Yeah, he's 54, so he's born in 1970. So yeah, it would probably, yeah. I mean, it's almost impossible. All right, very well. All right, so let's move on to segment number 4.
Okay, so MAGA has a problem, or, I shouldn't say MAGA. Trump has a problem. I know there are a lot of people we're getting, and I respect that, who are saying, make America great is not synonymous with Trump. I understand for some people it's not. You must also understand for a lot of people it is. And they have a real narrative management problem now, because a lot of people who are MAGA but are not necessarily caught up in the cult of personality of Trump are speaking out about the moves he's making re-Iran.
Into a war with Iran or not, America, if Israel is trying to, I don't trust the Israel leader at all. I don't believe anything that guy says. And I don't think that our soldiers should have to go and defend stuff that they start.
Yep. And this surprised me, I got to say, because he's such a foaming at the mouth Zionist. But Brett Weinstein, you got to remember when you see something like this, Brett Weinstein is like a very typical upper class Democrat lib that the wokies came for and that sent him running into the other camp. But
Right.
in the end, the sensibility that he expresses here re Iran is a pretty typical kind of left take on it. Hey, Iran wouldn't be like this if we hadn't whacked their democratically elected leader when he decided to nationalize the oil. So here's a little bit of what he said.
Problem with Iran is the result of regime change by the West. Full stop. So what people don't know in general is that in the 50s, between 1951 and 53, Iran was in the process of becoming a democratic state under a person, Mohammad Mossadegh. And Mossadegh nationalized the oil companies, or the British Oil Company, what is now British Petroleum, but was called by another name at the time. He nationalized effectively the control over the oil in Iran. Now, you may have mixed emotions about that. You've got a company, it's doing business in Iran, extracting oil. Presumably Iran is getting some benefit for that. But you can imagine the Iranians discovering or realizing that they didn't have a good deal, that they had a hugely important resource, and it would have become apparent by the early 50s how important that resource was, not just in terms of its value in terms of wealth, but its strategic importance. That
All right. So the long and short of it is MI6 called in the CIA to overthrow the government and install the Shah. About 25 years later, the Iranians decided they didn't like being ruled by the autocratic Shah. They weren't so crazy about his torture chambers for political dissidents, and that's how you got the current administration in Iran. All of it went back to the fact that they tried to democratically take control of their own resources and not be exploited by the Western powers. So you can understand why Iran would not be all that well disposed to America. You might even start having chants, death to America, if you have this country that's been interfering, much to the detriment of your people, in your internal affairs for over half a century. You are given the impression that the Middle East is so rife with autocracy and theocracy, with the rather underlying racist presumption that there's something wrong with these people, right? They won't say it that way, but yeah, there's something wrong with it. It's their history, it's their culture. No, it's not. No, it's not. The Middle East was well on its way into evolving into rather Western democratic socialist style region. And that's really the issue. If these countries had become democratic, much less socialist, there was a lot of pan-Arab socialism. Saddam Hussein is kind of a mutant outgrowth of what remained of that after Western interference across decades. They would have taken control of their oil. Couldn't have that. You
Right.
install autocrats. You only have to deal with one person and his corrupt clique, right? Democracy, well, they're going to make you pay a fair price for the oil. You're not going to have control over these regions in the same way. So, hey, the fact that Brett Weinstein's coming out and saying that, I mean, kudos. He's been a Zionist maniac throughout the post-October 7th world, but he is pointing this out, which gives you an idea of what a tough position Trump is in selling this when you're losing maniacal Zionist Brett Weinstein. You got a problem. Charlie Kirk, the proponents for regime change have pivoted the last 24 hours. They know they are losing and their position is indefensible and unpopular. Keep the pressure on. So Donald Trump was asked about what unconditional surrender for Iran means, this is what he said.
Conditional surrender mean? Can you explain it for those who don't?
Two very simple words. Very simple. Unconditional surrender. That means I've had it. Okay, I've had it. I give up. No more. Then we go blow up all the all the nuclear stuff that's all over the place there. No, they had bad intentions. There 40 years they've been saying death to America, death to Israel, death to anybody else that they didn't like. They were bullies. They were schoolyard bullies. And now they're not bullies anymore, but we'll see what happens. Look, nothing's finished until it's finished.
They were bullies. That's why we signed the deal with them, right? That you scrapped as a favor to Israel in exchange for helping you win in 2016. Like, didn't we? Like, this is what's so absurd about this. We had a deal with them. We made a deal with them, and this guy threw it out. And now he's going to say they're bullying us into a war that Israel started.
Well, and it's just perverse. I mean, who is the bully in that neighborhood?
Dude, I've never seen shit like this.
Who are committing a genocide, who we've been watching commit a genocide in broad daylight for 20 months? No, Iran, that hasn't invaded anyone. They're the bullies.
I've never seen stupidity like this, partly because we were sort of primed for this by the stupidity of the post 9/11 rush to war in Iraq, right? That kind of that kind of made us aware of this. But this is just on another level, man. It's on another level. This same president scrapped a deal that we made with this country.
Right.
This same president was sending multiple envoys to negotiate with this country until Israel decided to attack weeks ago. Weeks ago.
It's not that complicated. Again, we showed it many times. Donald Trump literally went and danced like a dancing bear at a carnival in front of a bank of Israeli flags and bragged that he did the will of Sheldon Adelson so quickly and efficiently, it was faster even than Adelson expected. That's it. That's your president. Anybody who expected different or thought that he was going to put America first, you can't say, oh, he got elected, he took the mask off. He told you he was this person right there. Yes, of course, it makes no sense to call off the Iran nuclear deal if you're America first. He's not America first. He's Israel first.
Exactly.
He made it very clear that's what he was going to be before he ever got elected. So this piece is really an exercise in how propaganda works and how they're going to try to change the narrative. So Trump draws attention to the fact that they say in the Iranian parliament, death to America. Now, Weinstein touched a bit on the history of why they might feel that way. And now all of the paid MAGA influencers, we know a lot of these people get paid. We saw that Sodagate, where all these guys took $1,000, no questions asked, to start attacking the Maha precept of less sugar in soda at the behest, presumably, of food companies that contracted the organization that gave them their talking points. A lot of these people get paid. When you see them all on the same page saying the same exact thing, they're being told what to say, just like corporate media. Just like corporate media, where you see them all saying the same thing. You know they got a phone call. They were told what to say. Same thing here. Liza Rosen. Anti-Trump influencers are triggered by this video of the entire Iranian parliament chanting, "Death to America." So let's flood their feeds with this. Share. Trying to hit your lizard brain there. Oh, yeah, that's going to piss them off. I'm going to share that. Jamie Mitchell. Today, the entire Islamic Republican of Iran's parliament chanted, "Death to America," just like they've done for the past 46 years. And still, I will see woke conservatives defend them on my timeline. Well, I don't want to be woke. I don't want to be world woke. I ain't woke. I'm anti-woke. So, yeah, let's bomb Iran. Bomb Iran, yeah. Ayel Yacobi. Okay, so this is the lengths they'll go to. In Iranian parliament, MPs burn the American flag while chanting death to America and threaten to use a nuclear bomb against the American homeland. I think Iran actually is an American problem. And this they spread this around quite a lot. This got community noted. Misleading. This video of Iranian MPs burning a U.S. flag and chanting death to America is from May 9th, 2018, not June 2025. It was a protest when? After the U.S. withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal.
Exactly.
Oh, you mean that withdrawing from the nuclear deal made them angry and more disposed to develop a nuclear weapon? Huh. You don't say. You don't
Can
say,
I just interject one thing? Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to step on you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not just are they going with the whole woke, anti-woke thing, but they're going with the they support the Iranian regime thing, which I know some people, for most of us, probably we remember what that is really a direct callback to. But in case you don't, this is what they said about Saddam. They said, you support Saddam Hussein unless you support the war in Iraq.
You're a traitor.
Or you're a traitor. You're pro-Saddam. It has nothing. I have no loyalty to any regime. Nobody has a. You think Tucker Carlson is loyal to the Iranian regime? You think Steve Bannon is loyal? It's absurd. It is absurd. It is absurd. But this is what they throw at you. And while we're stopped for a game break, I just have to remind YouTube here that when we put these things on the screen, we're doing it for commentary and news educational purposes. That's how we got this plaque here. See, we are friends of yours. These are for news and commentary purposes. We do not condone that phrase, death to America, of course. I don't even like America, and I don't want death to America.
We don't even like death cab to cutie. We don't like anything with death in the name.
No, my phrase would be humble America. We should humble America, but not death to. We should. America should take a chill pill, but we should not have death to America. So this is news and commentary. That's what we're doing here. We are providing context for you here. That's how we got this here. Yes, that's how we got this here by providing context and playing by the rules. You see that, YouTube? Look at that. Beautiful. Fresh out of the box. Still smells good. What good friends of ours you are. Go ahead.
Jamie Mitchell, seeing a bunch of so-called conservatives defending an Islamic regime who chant death to America is really weird, bro. Like, these people are cooked. Jew hatred actually does fry the brain. Yeah, no, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. You got Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, both people who should know better, emphatically, even as they criticize the idea of going to war with Iran, making a point of saying they love Israel.
And isn't that the gays against groomer person, the gay who strayed? I think so. See, this is the culture war to World War III pipeline.
Jamie Mitchell?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
This is the culture war to World War III pipeline, right?
Yep. Insurrection Barbie. I can't think of a more America First policy than not allowing the people who chant death to America to have a nuclear weapon. Of course. Okay, you think Insurrection Barbie doesn't get paid? You think they don't tell her what to say? You think she just woke up in the morning and really decided to parrot the talking point of the day that all the MAGA influencers and all the Zionists are trying to drill, that death to America, death to America, death to America, death to America. That's it, man. It's a psyop. It's a psyop. They're trying to program you. They're trying to make the anti-war position icky and woke and liberal, right?
One of these days, we're going to have to compile a master list of all the tweets going back years and years of these people insisting Donald Trump was the peace candidate because he wouldn't do a thing like this. Because I'm sure they exist in the thousands.
I am sure. Senator Katie Boyd Britt, death to America, death to Israel echoes throughout Iran. Make no mistake, the Iranian regime seeks to destroy Western civilization.
We realized that 2 weeks ago.
And our way of life. Can you explain to me one thing that Iran has done that indicates its mission is to destroy America or Western civilization? Can you name anything they've done that is not defensive. What are they doing to destroy Western civilization? You know, most people don't think like that. Most people, most Americans don't really care what people do in Iran, and most Iranians don't really care what people do in countries that are not theirs if you don't bother them. If you don't bother them, if you don't make yourself an issue for their own country.
We signed an agreement with them.
Yes.
That's the beginning and the end. We signed an agreement with them.
Right.
How, at that point, can you say they are determined to bring Western civilization to its knees? If that was their goal,
Right.
would they have signed the Iran
Why
deal?
would they sign that?
Why would they sign the deal?
Well,
The
they were
very
just
guy-
sneaking around. They were just sneaking around.
The very guy who scrapped the deal is now back in office agitating for World War III.
Exactly.
This is how stupid they think you are. It is.
Yep.
I told you. I warned you about this. I said it's going to get really stupid really quick, and here we go.
Yep. Well, speaking of stupid, and I wanted to use this because I think culturally it's very interesting in what it's trying to say. This Catherine, whoever that is. F Islam. Oh, look, you missed another. Well, that's the Islamic Republic.
No,
F
I left
the-
that in because it's actually very important. So there's a big difference between saying fuck a country and fuck a group of people.
A religion. Yeah.
Right? That's. I
All
wish
right.
the Zionists would understand that.
F Islam. Fuck the Islamic Republic of Iran. For my entire life, death to America has been the chant of Iran. When they say death to America, they mean it. It's not just a slogan. And if they get nuclear weapons, they'll try. Iran will never have nukes. F Islam. And okay, so you can see the picture here. It's F Islam with a rather attractive woman sporting a lot of underboob. And if you deconstruct this, it's kind of culturally fascinating because this is a very Libby kind of a thing, right? Isn't it the libs who brag about how you have sex shops in Tel Aviv and you can't you can't buy a dildo out in any other part of the Middle East? That was an actual tweet lamenting that one of these sex shops had been bombed. Where else can you get a dildo? I mean, they said this without any irony. You know, the sexual revolution was, of course, resisted by conservatives. It's a fascinating book. I have a copy of. It's completely out of print. The Making of a Counterculture, that basically argued the writer was a prophet. He really saw what was going to happen. He argued the sexual revolution is completely compatible with capitalism. And if you look at the way Playboy has married sexual liberation to a high-end lifestyle, to being in the jet set, capitalism is just going to devour this and sell it back to you. That turned out to be so true that even the conservatives accept the idea that sexual libertinism is one of the things that makes the West superior to a more conservative culture. Why else would you put out a picture like this, right? That's the contrast. Look at us.
Well, the alternative was transitioning to a man, which she didn't want to do.
She didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
She didn't want to do that. She didn't have the money to do it, actually.
Right.
I understand.
She needs more followers.
No, she was scheduled for the surgery, and then Trump cut that from
Right.
Medicaid
Yeah, exactly.
coverage. So Dark Crystal puppet Dean Phillips. This is the Democrat side of this. Dear fellow Democrats, the Iranian regime is responsible for 74% of recorded executions in the world, puts people to death for being gay, arrests people for failing to wear a hijab or walking their dog, and employs death to America among its favored slogans. To those claiming to oppose oppression, this would be a good time to show it. Now, I don't know the truth of these things. I'm not going to, argue with it. I will say that coming from the only country in the West that executes people, it's very interesting to make the argument that because a culture has executions, they should be bombed and invaded, because you know what? Most of the rest of the world could use that as a basis to invade the United States. But of course, even if all of these things are true about the Iranian regime, the idea that we're bothered by that and that's why we want to have a war with Iran, absolutely ridiculous. A Saudi journalist tweeted against the government and was executed for high treason. This just happened. There's an article from the other day. They just executed a journalist. This is the same regime that executed Khashoggi, right? That chopped up a journalist. This last month. U.S. agrees to sell Saudi Arabia $142 billion arms package, which Dean Phillips certainly knows. This chest beating about the crimes of other countries as a justification for war. It's the oldest trick in the book. And when you look at who we're allied with, nations that have policies that are just as bad, if not worse, as what Dean Phillips is describing, it's just, again, that is how stupid they think you are. Yeah, no, this is about we need to liberate the Iranians.
Well, this is why I snapped at him, because he's such an unbelievable phony, unbelievable and transparent phony. Hey, if you claim to oppose oppression, what about Israel? Shouldn't you oppose Israel? It seems like a pretty oppressive place to me.
Yeah, not to Dean Phillips.
Yeah.
Hey, and you want to talk? You want to talk about the fair exercise of the law? The only Western country that even makes the list of the top 25 most incarcerated countries per capita is the United States. The United States at number 5. Number 1, our new best buddy, El Salvador.
Yep.
El Salvador, our new best buddy, Bukele over there. We are number 5. Iran is not even in the top 25 of most incarcerated countries. I'm not sure where they would rank. This only went to about 30. Iran's not even on the list.
And also El Salvador,
February 2025.
Yeah. Also, El Salvador ranks that high because of us, because they knew that if they built up their police state, we would contract with them to send our deportees there. So that's our doing.
Right. We're subcontracting our police state to them.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, this is all planned. None of this is organic. You see some cute blonde girl in a supply closet for some reason, I don't know why, making it a Democrat thing, right? That this is all aimed at Trump supporters who don't support a war in Iran, to put the stink on it that, it's only those crazy Democrats that think it's a bad idea.
They're defending Iran. They're defending Iran. They're defending
the tech dystopia version of 2002.
Oh my God. I never thought I'd see the day. An oppressive regime that stands for everything they claim to stand against. Oppression. An oppressive regime that treats women horribly and doesn't give women rights. That doesn't believe in freedom of religion. Better start getting familiar with your prayers.
This is hard to watch.
They're defending Iran wants them dead. It feels wrong saying it out loud. They're defending. Their propaganda is working overtime. They're defending.
Oh yeah.
You could say that again.
These are the America First people. These are the people who up until a week ago, literally, were America First.
Mm-hmm.
These kinds of things are not our business. We need to focus on our country. Of course, it's not organic. Of course, these people, they're all taking a check from somewhere.
Of course. And you know, I mean, look, she's good. She's good. Like that's a good approach. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, she's cute. She has charisma. Right, that's why she's getting paid the big bucks, I'm sure, go on TikToks and go on TikTok. Yeah, the Democrats. Oh my God, they want to kill them. Like this is such a classic, like woke kind of an argument. Oh, don't you realize they hate everything you stand for, right? So you don't want to stand with the Democrats. You don't want to stand with the Democrats. The cute blonde girl is going to laugh at you, right? All right, you already get laughed at every time you drop your pants. You don't need to get laughed at for your beliefs about Iran.
You won't get to fuck your hot coworker in the supply closet if you're not for the war in Iran.
Exactly. All right, so everything ends at a grift, right? So Lindy Lee said, hey, man, I'm going to capitalize on my 15 minutes and keep it going as long as I can. So Lindy Lee is on this View Proxy show. What's it called?
It's called Her Take. It's called Her Take, which, you know, I mean, she's a billionaire. You'd think they would get to build their own set rather than just recycling an old toothpaste commercial set for their set. It looks like a toothpaste commercial. That's what this show looks like.
Yeah, well, billionaires are not known for their exquisite taste. But hey, you know, being famous, that's intoxicating, right? It's intoxicating. She doesn't need the money, but she likes the attention, I guess.
I'm not even pro the Netanyahu regime, but let's get our facts correct. Iran is completely desecrating all agreements that it's previously made. In fact, yes. Can I finish?
No, they're not.
Just 2 weeks ago, they refused to let nuclear inspectors into their infrastructure, into their facilities. That is a clear violation of previous agreements. To say that that's not happening is completely dishonest and disingenuous. And I am not even pro Netanyahu. I just want to lay out the facts here. This is what's happening. They are violating agreements.
All right, so there's a lot of gold in them there. I'm on the left, but hills. That's a big lane. They love that shit. They love that shit. We were being recruited for that, but it didn't take.
That's a billionaire.
We were too honest for that lane. But yeah, no, there's a big market for, yeah, I'm on the left, but I agree with Trump about basically everything. Yeah. So that's what Lindy Lee has carved out for herself. That's her niche now.
Well, because the Democrats wasted her money. This was a Democrat mega donor until November of last year. Certainly a Democrat billionaire mega donor knows what the Iran deal is. Certainly she was a proponent of the Iran deal. Certainly she must have touted that as a major step forward under Barack Obama, who up at this time last year was the leader of the movement she gave her life to. And now what? 8 months later, after November, boom, now Iran's violating the agreements. We have to do something. Like, it's just incredible what these people will do. It's just incredible how shameless they are and how stupid they are. How stupid they are. How could you be making that argument?
You know, Fox put her in front of a camera and she liked it.
Yep.
I Kissed Brett Baer and I liked it. Her new single coming out next month.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
This is JB here to close this out. With a dose of sanity, just for the sake of argument, even if they did shout death to America, they wouldn't be saying it if we didn't mess with their country and tried to take their resources via regime change. Basically, we could turn this around if we get the fuck out of their countries and left them alone. Yes, very well said, JB.
Reinstate the agreement we had. That's what makes this so cartoonish.
Reinstate the agreement they had. Look, this really shows you how the propaganda machine works. I mean, it's so transparent. Where Trump says this thing, they said death to America, and the next day, man, they got their orders. You know, I don't think it's just taking the cues off that. Like I said, you got organizations that get paid to give checks to people like the blonde in the closet, and a lot of these bigger influencers too, or in some cases it's like the corporate media where they don't directly get a check, but they get access and they get orders. You want to keep that access? This is the marching order of the day. You are to drill that Iran says death to America and they're hell-bent on destroying us, so this is an American issue. That's it. That's the message. You're going to drill that into people's heads. Again, we've talked a lot about this since this broke out. I don't think it's going to work this time. It's not the country it was in 2001 or 2003. It's very different. People are over it. We've had a quarter century of these regime change Middle Eastern wars to no good end. The country is in a state of economic and infrastructure decay that is almost third world in its proportions. People were promised they're going to get jobs and they're going to get improved livelihoods. Of course, they're not going to get, in any case, when you look at the bill coming out of Congress, which we'll get to a little later. But yeah, they're not down for this, man. Yeah, it'll work on some morons. It'll work on some morons. I don't think enough, especially when you've got the Charlie Kirks, you've got the Theo Vons, you've got the Tucker Carlsons, you got the Steve Bannons all speaking against this. I don't think they're going to be able to change a significant number of minds. You're at 16%. Maybe they get it up in the low 20s, I'd say, at best.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so transparently stupid. Even Trump's line here, they've been chanting that to America for 40 years. Okay, so then why was this not an emergency until a week ago when Israel jumped the gun and started a war? Like, it just doesn't even make logical sense. Like,
the
if
whole
they...
cartoon, it's so cartoonish. Yeah. There are these evil Muslims who go to bed at night obsessed with destroying America.
No, but I'm saying even if that were true, like even if you bought the general sort of like, you know, even if you kind of buy into that framework, why was this not an emergency until last week when Israel jumped the gun and started bombing them? Like, if everything you're saying about them is true, that they've been these scary, monstrous people who are out to get us for the last 40 years, okay, so then we're not doing anything about it until a week ago when Israel decided they were going to bomb them? Like, that makes no sense. That's not logical. There's no logic to that. Even if you buy the whole very bigoted clash of civilizations framing, there's still no logic to it. That this all of a sudden became an emergency now. This is like the caravan in 2018. Trump is president. He's bragging about the border as we came in and we shut the border down. That was the first 2 years, in office. We did a great job at the border. And then when it was midterm season, the last 2 weeks of the midterms, there's a caravan coming. Vote for the Republicans. Well, what do you mean?
Yep.
I thought you had the border closed. A week before the election, there's a caravan coming up to the southern border. It's so stupid. Like, people have to think. Think for yourself for just a minute, and you'll see through this. And I beg people to do it because it's not a guarantee that they will. This stuff is very powerful. I agree. I think we're in a better place to recognize this for what it is now than we were in 2002.
Much better.
But they're not going to try
It's
any
a different
less hard.
country, man. It's a different country.
Yeah.
9/11 rocked people's heads. They were very vulnerable to brainwashing. 9/11 was like mental COVID.
Right, yeah.
It just made people very vulnerable and susceptible to any kind of propaganda they wanted to feed people. It's not that country anymore.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, and we certainly hope that manifests itself in the calling off of this for sure. All right. Hard Daylight says Gabbard doesn't mention once that it was the USA that dropped the atomic bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. That's right. She's a psyop and will change her viewpoint on the turn of a dime to suit. You ran out of characters there, but I see what you mean. Thank you for that very much, Hard Daylight. Xander Varkov says, just wait until Trump starts falling out with RFK when he tries to change the McDonald's ingredients. Yeah, there we go. Yes, there you go. Yes. Good one. Get up, King. Don't worry about a bunker. Movies have taught me all you need is a good refrigerator to hide in. Thank you for that. Rumble stops playing, freezes the video every few minutes. Are you having technical difficulties on Rumble today? We're sorry about that, Nujoma. This has been a confusing few days for me, says I am the Owl. The AI chatbot girlfriends, one based on Tulsi and one based on Laura Loomer. They've been fighting a lot this week. And yeah, good one. Good one.
That is, look, it's a very competitive category. The most dystopian, depressing things that are floating around right now. When I see those ads for the AI girlfriends, wow, man. That is sad shit. That is sad shit.
Rough stuff. Kemen G says, how are you guys coping with all this? I'm seriously scared, sleeping uneasily, and I'm usually unperturbed by political issues. It's hard, man. It's hard. Look, I remember I was a teenager post 9/11. I had some sleepless nights worrying if I was going to get blown up. So yeah, man, when things like this happen, it can be tough. We're lucky in that we get to talk to people who can kind of, talk us through it. Like talking to Gabor Mate, who deals specifically with like psychological stress and stuff like that was very helpful for me personally. But honestly, talking to a guy like Morandi,
he fixed Keaton.
He fixed me, but it was kind of on the nose. But in terms of like just getting through this, like for me, talking to a guy like Morandi is helpful, psychologically, because you see what people endure, man. Like when shit gets real, people have to endure a lot. Professor Morandi has endured a lot in his life. Even a guy like Chris Hedges, man, to be a war reporter, to go through it, like people go through a lot. I think, in America, we get kind of fat and cozy and assume that politics at the end of the day is just a spectator sport. As much as we engage with it, we engage with it at arm's length until shit gets real, and then nothing is at arm's length, and that reality hits you. And so I would say, watch, if you're not in a position to talk to them as we are, we're very blessed to be able to talk to these people and get to know these people. If you're not in a position to do that, watch guys like Gabor Mate, Chris Hedges, Morandi, watch people who have like been through it, and just see how they cope with it. They cope, they get by. They're still here. They're still doing their thing. That would be my advice to you.
That's Hillary Hinton?
No, that's Ken Minji.
Oh, Kim and G. I don't know how old you are, man. Gen Xers, we grew up on hose water and Cold War paranoia. So I got to say, for me, it's like a homecoming.
Yeah, there you go.
Going to bed, worried about nukes. I'm like, yo, man, cue the Tears for Fears. Put on the Breakfast Club. We're back, baby.
George says, no, I didn't know about the protests, and Russell is right. The day they chose to lock us all in, Mossad chief just admitted on camera that they didn't know how capable Iran is. Wow. Well, be safe, George. Kim and G says, I paid Matt Gaetz to say all that to me again on Cameo for the preservation of my mental health. Best $500 I spent. Good one. Yes.
Yeah, maybe they should have just watched Max Blumenthal's coverage of their missile program before they started that war, because Max got into all that.
That's true.
In his trip to Iran.
That's true. $1 Million Trooper says, more Kim Jong-un impersonation from Keaton, please. Hilarious. At least to my sophomore sense of humor. All right, I'll try and incorporate some of those in. We should have a character. We should have him doing Christopher Walken pieces on our soundboard. Kim Jong-un does Christopher Walken. I could have used a rhythm or cowbell. We could do that. Him doing Walken is good. If the war against Iran intensifies, do you think anti-Israel sentiments will worsen, or will people just blame Trump? No, both will happen. Anti-Israel sentiments will worsen, and yes, people are going to blame Trump. Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare. I mean, that's why it hasn't happened yet, because Trump knows this is a political nightmare. He knows that. That's why it hasn't happened yet. It's not because Tulsi put a video out. It's because he knows what the stakes are in terms of his numbers.
I have been saying this throughout. This is going to lead to not what they're calling anti-Semitism. This is going to lead to a real anti-Semitic backlash, because the only thing that is preventing that is the fact that Trump is owned by Israel, and he's putting out the signal that it's not cool. As soon as you wind up with a leader of what's left of the shattered remnants of that movement that doesn't feel any need to tamp that down, or that even encourages it. Yeah, this is what I keep telling all the Zionist fruitcakes, man. I say, you people are going to get us all killed, man. You are what is going to get us killed.
Right. Yeah. No, they're going to blame the JOOs for World War III.
Exactly.
All right. Hey, folks. Hey, one way you could cheer yourself up is with some music. So a moment of your time, please. John Coa, one of our dissident sponsors, has a new single out called Just a Little Off the Rails. So for those familiar with John's work, this is the latest preview from his upcoming album. The foundation of these tracks began as raw live acoustic performances captured a few years ago Initially, John considered releasing just those solo acoustic versions, but he found it easier to make the art than to put it out. Now these tracks are seeing the light of day. So Just a Little Off the Rails is the first single. It's an autobiographical song with lyrics that may hit home for a lot of people. So go to John Coa's Spotify page and give it a listen. The links to all of his socials, including his Spotify, are at this handy link, dudissidents.com/Coa. So go and check that out. Good song. We played some of this song on Sunday night show because it's content ID'd on YouTube, which is an automated thing, I guess, through his licensor. So we can't play it on the YouTube side. But when we switched over to the Rumble side, we did play it. It's a great tune. So go and give that a listen on Spotify or dudissidents.com/Coa. All righty. Beautiful. All right. What do we got here? We got let's see here. Skyman says, I got that one already. JC Bin SD, thanks for the $5. This is a funny one. This show proves you can be devoid of talent and have Ted Cruz levels of unlikability and still put out a great product. Keep up the great work, fellas. Thank you, JCB at San Diego. Thank you very much for that. That's good. Andrew Baez, thanks for the $5, says Tulsi also said she's finally ready for a coat made of 101 Dalmatians. Oh, good one. Oh, yeah. Skyman 2204 says there are no elections, there's no swing of the pendulum, there's only the next phase toward the end goal. Trump is just the accelerationist phase to the police state, and probably worse. Yes, good point. Charles, thanks for the $20, says go to Rum for the Tucker segment. Kit Stream got shut down while he was playing clips. Yeah, we're not going to go to Rumble for that. We're just going to play that here. I mean, if they pull the stream, find us on Rumble, but we have no reason to believe they will. I mean, we played the clips on Jimmy's last night. We've played Tucker clips in the past, so I don't know what that was about. Yeah. But yeah, we will just press on, and if they pull the stream, they pull the stream. Find us over on Rumble, and we'll do that. But thank you for that advice. Thanks for looking out. But not only have we played Tucker in the past, we just ran that through a copyright check and it cleared. So, we really got no reason to not do it. Kudos to Tulsi for being such a perfect tool on every side of every issue. And even more kudos to the Zio surgeon who flawlessly removed her spine. Thank you, respected samurai. Bart, thanks for the $10. It came to my attention that Whitney Webb plagiarized Alex Dawson. I don't know if that's true, but I'm just here to say Alex Dawson because it seems like someone who we're not supposed to know about. Alex Dawson, what, is a spy? Thank you, Bart. Vicky Blair, every time you play the Iron Maiden 666 clip, my bird, Fidel, stops everything and dances. That alone is worth the $5, but also you guys are the best. Does your bird dance to 666?
Your bird digs it.
That's cool. Brandon Guillory, thanks for the $2. Appreciate that. Gavin Hillock says a mild cold to America. Thank you. Appreciate that very much. Okay, we will move on. All right, we're going to
scorching STD to America.
Yeah, right, exactly. Scorching STD to America. You're cool, partner. Well, should we just do the Tucker over here, right? We don't need to switch to Rumble. We cleared that a million times. No,
I think so.
I don't think so. I mean, if it happens, then find us on Rumble. We're going to continue the show over there, but we've never had a problem, so we're not going to assume we're going to have one now. All right, let's move on right along here. All right, folks, so this was a hilarious event that took place. Tucker Carlson versus Ted Cruz. Now, this was 2 hours, and there's so many angles of this we can cover. We covered one of those angles yesterday on the Jimmy Dore show where Tucker exposed that Ted Cruz knew nothing about Iran, including how many people live there or even a ballpark. But here, the subject of AIPAC comes up, and where do you think Ted Cruz takes this conversation? By implying that Tucker Carlson is anti-Semitic for thinking that AIPAC has undue influence on American politics. The Japanese just bomb Iran and bait us into World War III? Like, what an amazingly stupid thing that is to say. I mean, it's stupid under any circumstance. It's incredibly stupid under this circumstance. Well, why don't you ask about the Japanese? Are you like, is that a joke? Is that a joke? Like, is that a serious statement? Wow. Anything?
No, go ahead.
All right.
And what about the Jews? What about the Jews? I'm asking questions.
I love that. sleazy feline way, implying
It's pretty
it.
good.
That is pretty good. I mean, that does crystallize. Tucker must have thought of that in advance. He couldn't have come up with that off the top of his head. He must have think of myself. I know, if he gives me a hard time, I'm going to call him a sleazy feline. That's what he reminds me of. It's true. He doesn't, and I'm glad that he did that too. Which is like you don't have the honor to come out and call me an anti-Semite. Instead, you're going to sleazily imply it, right? If you're going to call me that, just why don't you come? If you're not, I didn't call you an anti-Semite. I just said, why do you say the Jews control our foreign policy? I said it's weird that you're obsessed with Jews, but that's not at all an accusation of anti-Semitism.
An anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are.
Okay, back that up a second.
Just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
Okay, so you just called him an anti-Semite. You said, okay, well, if you're not an anti-Semite, why are you obsessed with Israel? That's calling him an anti-Semite. And also, why would be? And Tucker says he's not obsessed with Israel, which I take him at his word for that. Like he's not like I'm obsessed with Israel these past 20 months. I'm obsessed with the genocide that they are perpetrating. But you don't have to be obsessed with Israel to have the same critique that Tucker has. You're like, look, I'm not obsessed with Israel. The country's being dragged to war by Israel, obviously. Like they're dragging us into war. So we're paying close attention to Israel, and we're very critical of the influence that the Israel lobby has in American politics for patently obvious reasons. Like it's almost like Ted Cruz is living in a world where we're not being dragged into war by Israel. It's almost like nothing is going on. Right, so it's almost like he subscribes to a certain.
Do you know that the Japanese consider wasabi peas a candy?
Yeah, right, exactly.
I haven't heard you mention that. It's weird. It's weird, Tucker. It's very weird.
Yeah. Wow. And why don't you ask about Iran or the Ayatollah? Israel attacked Iran. If we attacked Iran, if the United States military bombed Iran ourselves rather than use our proxy, okay. If we attacked Iran, you could say, okay, we're going to litigate America versus Iran, right? That you could see Iran entering into things. We did not attack Iran. Israel attacked Iran. So if Israel instigates the war, then yes, we are going to ask these questions of Israel, not of Iran, because Israel attacked Iran. See, Cruz wants to have it both ways. He wants to tell you out of one side of his mouth, no, AIPAC is not a foreign lobby. They're an American lobby. But at the same time, we are separable from Israel in the sense that what? This isn't our war. It's theirs, but it's really ours. It's nonsense. It collapses under the weight of its own nonsense. A scumbag. Like, this is why his colleagues hate him. Like, Ted Cruz is widely hated amongst Republican colleagues. Boehner said he was the most miserable son of a bitch he ever worked with in his life. Peter King, another Republican, said he'd rather drink cyanide than vote for Ted Cruz for president if he were the nominee in 2016. This is why he is so despised. I mean, he is just such a miserable bastard of a person.
He just called me a sleazy.
Well, that's the whole game. That's the whole game. They can't do this with any other country. This is part of why we're so invested in Israel. It is the ultimate woke tactic. We've showed how the New York Times holds up Michael Bloomberg as an ideal of liberal governance because they're afraid of Mamdani. They don't care that he brutalized black people very famously with stop and frisk. They need these marginalized groups to hide behind in order to push an agenda that very often is actually against the benefit of those groups. Israel is the ultimate shield for them. It is the ultimate agenda shield. It is the only country you can do that with, where you could go as hog wild with the most monstrous genocidal crimes you can imagine. And then if anyone says anything about it, you're a horrible bigot who supports the Holocaust. You're a Holocaust denier. There's no other country you could do that with. You speak against Italy. What are they going to call you? Anti-Italian?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So this goes on. Here. David Santa Carla says you'll never see two more uncomfortable minutes. This is more on AIPAC
what AIPAC does. I'm just asking what AIPAC does. My understanding, having known a lot of people who work at AIPAC, is that it lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government.
How can you come on and say this? Like, it's really not a surprise they found Ted Cruz to do this, because it takes just an unbelievable asshole who has such an inflated sense of his own intellect and his own power of persuasion to have the guts to sit across from Tucker Carlson and make these just transparently absurd arguments. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, it's oh, there you have it. That is quite the display there. AIPAC Tracker made their own graphic here. Sleazy feline. $1.872 million from the Israel lobby. Yeah, that's embarrassing, man. That's embarrassing. And look, we gave Tucker some shit. Tucker is, mealy-mouthed on the issue of Israel, obviously, because he'll do things like this. He'll interview Munther Isaac, and then he'll turn around and say, I love Israel. I don't understand why you can't
what does that even mean?
Like, what does that even mean? Like, there's a real inconsistency there, which I'm definitely conscious of, and we have called out on repeat occasion.
Yeah.
But there's no denying the efficacy of a guy like Tucker with the influence and reach he has and the influence over the MAGA base that he has, undressing Ted Cruz in that, or dressing down. Sorry, undressing, wrong metaphor. Dressing down.
That was after the interview.
Yeah, that was after the interview. Dressing down.
Yeah, they had a hate fuck with Alex Jones in his demon costume.
Sorry for that mental image, folks. I've been on the air. This is my 18th hour on the air this week. Dressing down. The efficacy of him dressing down Ted Cruz there is tremendous, because that is so illuminating. And the fact that it was such a dominant performance. That was good stuff. That was well done.
Well, yeah, and you're right. Most of them would never have put themselves in that position because they're self-aware enough to know how that would go.
Right.
The fact that Ted Cruz thought he was going to go in there and what, take Tucker to task? Like, how did he think that was going to end? Yeah, amazing to try to. It does give you insight into what bullshit they tell people when asked. Usually you wouldn't see them asked in a public forum like this. Like the basic premise that AIPAC is not a foreign lobby. Like, he's right that countries lobby. Sure, they have to register as agents of a foreign power. Right. Clearly, AIPAC is an agent of a foreign power. And to just say, they contradict Israel all the time. All right, well, name one. It's a typical debate tactic that someone like Ted Cruz is used to getting away with, particularly on this subject, because when is he ever in a position that someone hostile to these ideas and willing to say so is going to put him on the carpet like that?
Exactly. All right, we got one more piece of Ted Cruz versus Tucker Carlson, but let's take a quick word from 1775 Coffee first. So, folks, if you have not tried 1775 Coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus, with no crash, of course. All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political views. And, of course, a black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just $99. This is a limited edition set for the ones who have been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. The dissidents who have tried it have been very satisfied. We've gotten great feedback from 1775 Coffee. So go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. So start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe. Okay, All right, beautiful. We'll take some more Rumble rants and super chats while we're paused here. Got some more Ted Cruz versus Tucker to go here. South Sudan isn't a signatory to NNPT. I can't wait for South Sudan to nuke Sudan. I think up depressing war fan fiction. Israel is not really worried about Iran building a bomb. They hate Iran because they support the Palestinians. Well, yes, that is what Marandi said as well. Oh, George says, Russ, that missile hit a military site that is next to the hospital. It was damaged partially. It still exists.
Oh, really?
Okay, there you go.
Oh, that's good to know.
Thank you,
I guess
George.
you would know. You're there, man.
You would know. That's right. Otacon says, Chinese professor predictive history going viral for his predictions. One of them is that Trump will blame Jews and embrace anti-Semitic part of MAGA when Iran invasion fails and try and stay president forever. Well, you just made Malta look very attractive to me. There you go. So there you go. $1 Million Trooper. People love unboxing videos. It's like gambling for squares. Oh, yeah. No, they're big.
Yeah.
They're
We're going to
famous
clip
now.
that separate.
Yeah, that's going to be its own clip. It's going to be a record-setting clip. 100K, good time to sell out to TYT. It's been an honor. Thank you, Bonzo Beans. Appreciate that very much. Appreciate that. Okay, all right. We're going to do another piece, Tucker versus Ted Part 2. All right, folks. So, I had to look into this a little bit more because this is not our area of expertise. This is where Tucker Carlson makes the religious case for blindly supporting Israel. And it's just amazing how many times he just stepped on his own toes in this 2-hour conversation. I mean, it is just incredible how many viral moments there are of Ted Cruz making an absolute clown of himself. So here we are, folks. 2 Jews about to litigate Bible talk. So you really should, that is actually an astounding thing to say as a United States Senator, is that you are biblically compelled to give unconditional support to another country. That is an amazing thing to admit.
Especially when a big part of your indictment of the Muslim world is that it's made up of religious fanatics and theocrats.
Exactly. They say the Muslims are fanatically religious, and then some people say that Jews are duly loyal, which there are some people who happen to be Jewish who do seem more loyal to Israel than the U.S. As a Jew myself, I have some license to say that that's not a crazy conspiracy theory. But now you're seeing the Christian side of religious fanaticism producing fealty to Israel. You're a member of the Senate, and you're saying that you are religiously not just compelled, obligated to provide unconditional support to another country. Wow. This is insanity.
Well, my question is, do you believe in the biblical prophecy that Israel needs to be there as Jesus bait? And when he gets there, the ones who don't accept him will be thrown into the lake of fire, because I think a lot of our Jewish friends would be interested to know that part of the story.
Yes, well, that is the even crazier part of it. That's the even crazier part of it that's sort of hidden in plain sight. But David Friedman backed Ted Cruz on this. He says, last night, Tucker Carlson acknowledged as a Christian the biblical mandate to bless Israel, but suggested that the government of Benjamin Netanyahu was not biblical Israel. Seems to me a pretty misguided point that this son of a rabbi will try to address. Israel has always been Israel. It has always had leaders, some good, some not. The Bible has never qualified the mandate to bless Israel by who was leading it. And by the way, I support Netanyahu. Okay, so what that means is that the loyalty is to the land. It's to the borders, because that's the Holy Land.
Mm-hmm.
So what if, just spitball in here, not that this would ever happen, what if a bunch of genocidal maniacs took over that land? You would have to back them? Right? In their mind,
frankly, as the one on the committee who's actually read the frickin' Bible, it's been a while, but I took that, the way that it was framed in the Bible, as meaning the people of Israel, like the Jewish people, like the chosen people, to bless them. I didn't even really take it as referring to the geographical place. And especially, actually, that kind of backs that up because in Genesis, there is no such place. You don't get that place until after Book of Joshua.
Well, isn't the quote here? Yeah, my brother texted me the quote here. I'll do some Bible study. And in you, all the families of the earth will be blessed. That's how that passage ends, right? So I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you, I will curse. The people, the sons of Abraham.
Right.
And
so it doesn't have anything to do with the land.
Right. And in you, all the families of the earth will be blessed.
Right.
Right.
At that time, there is no such land.
Right. So, yeah, pretty crazy shit. The nation of Israel today comprises a people that praise in the same language.
Be nice to me and Keaton. Send us generous. Be very generous with your super chats.
Yes. Bless those who super chat you and curse those who do not.
Yes. Send some. We have a P.O. box. You could send some nice jewelry, maybe.
Exactly. The nation of Israel today comprises a people that praise in the same language, in the same places, and with the same liturgy as in ancient times. Its faith is governed by the Old Testament. This is the same nation of Israel referred to in the Bible. The return of the Jewish people from exile to statehood within the land of Israel is exactly the biblical prophecy of Ezekiel, Isaiah, and Jeremiah, and actualizes God's covenants with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You don't need to believe any of this, but if you are a self-proclaimed Christian professing allegiance to biblical covenants and prophecies, but denying these principles, I don't understand your theology. So Ted Cruz says, exactly right. Ted Cruz is very glad to have one guy stick up for him on Twitter. Exactly right. And yes, Tucker really argued that when the Bible says Israel, it doesn't mean Israel. Now, he almost got ratioed there, 10,000 likes to 8,500 comments. But our friend Dave DeCam from antiwar.com ratioed him pretty good, doubled him up. 20,000 likes for this one. If I name my son Jesus, would you worship him as God because he has the same name as Jesus from the Bible? Yes, good one, Dave. Mel says, when the Bible says Israel, it doesn't mean the secular nation state of Israel that was formed in 1948. Correct. Tucker is absolutely correct. And this is a good point here. I just listened to this segment in context where Cruz based his support for Israel on his religious beliefs and then immediately goes on to say that Iran is run by religious fanatics.
Yep.
Yet somehow these Christian Zionist zealots like Cruz don't recognize their hypocrisy. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you literally are saying on camera, first reason I support Israel is because the Bible tells me to. I have to.
Well, and there's that clip of Chuck Schumer saying that they're entitled to the land, and the people who don't believe it, well, they don't believe in the Torah. They don't believe in the Torah. You're a politician. And especially Democrats, they're so obsessed with the idea of Christian theocrats being in our government. But that type of theology, they have no problem with their own being guided by that. I know Zionism is really a mental illness. Like I know dyed-in-the-wool secular Jews who, when you argue with them about Israel, will point out that they've been praying facing the direction of Israel for centuries. Right? So what? You're a religious nut now? Like, what does that matter? That was their choice. So that entitles them to the land, that they have these superstitions that they followed for a long time. That's their problem.
Of course.
Why is that the Palestinian people's problem?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So one more slide here from a friend of the show, Dan Cohen. Ted Cruz is a Zionist and idolater who worships the modern state of Israel, conflating it with the biblical kingdom of Israel. Before the founders, many of whom were atheists of the Jewish state, settled on the name Israel in 1948, they considered Iver, root word for Hebrew. Iver, you might know these words better. You went to Hebrew school. Do you want to read those?
They kicked me out pretty early.
All right. Uriah, Hebrew state. Judea, I know that one. Biblical kingdom. Eretz Israel, biblical land of Israel. Zion, rejected because it was too religious. And my personal favorite, Herzliya, for Theodore Herzl, the atheist anti-Semite who founded the Zionist movement. Had they chosen a different name, Cruz would still be a Zionist shill, but he'd come up with a different lie to justify it. Yeah, that's exactly right. For all his posturing and all of his pretty disgraceful statements about how he is first and foremost compelled by his faith to support a foreign country, that's really what this is all about, obviously.
Yep.
Money talks. That's what it's
Yep.
about for all of these people. And Cruz is just such an amoral dirtbag that he is so shameless as to go on this show for 2 hours and think that he was going to come out of that looking good, but it was not to be.
Yeah, we've been so busy. I haven't gotten to watch it. But yes, I'm looking forward to watching that in its entirety.
Yeah, I haven't watched it straight through because there have been so many clips. I mean, so many sections. Like usually you do an interview like that, 1, maybe 2 sections go viral. This has like 7 pieces that have gone viral. Pretty crazy stuff. All right, folks, we have one more segment on the day, but before we do that, we are going to take a break for a word from our supporters. So, folks, if you like what we do here and you want to help us do more of it, of course, the best way you can support the program is to become a member. You can go to dudissidents.com/Patreon, dudissidents.com/Substack, or dudissidents.com/locals. Benefit of membership include your name up in lights here on the patron scroll, our film club live streams once a month, our post-game live streams, which I guess we're going to have to do a week from today will be a post-game live stream. That's probably, we haven't finalized that. I'm just thinking of it here because end of the month is coming up soon. But once a month, what we do is we create a special live stream on its own channel that runs concurrent with this one. And then we close the stream to everyone except our paid members. We do the final 2 segments of the stream for members only. Plus, we take calls. You also get call-in access to all of our Q&As, which happen once a week, every Sunday night over on Rumble. And you get replays of every live stream the day after they air publicly. So if you miss a stream and you want to watch it back, and you don't want to deal with the ad interruptions, you get a video link emailed to you where you can watch the entire stream uncensored and uncut and uninterrupted by ads the day after they air. All of that for just $5 a month, and you help tremendously to censor-proof this operation, to safeguard this operation against the whims of big tech. It is hugely important. We could not do the show without our paid members. So Patreon, Substack, and Locals, the links are all up there. Thank you very much, everyone, for your support. Brandon Guillory gave us a $2 super sticker. Thank you, Brandon. Gavin Hillock says a mild cold to America. Yeah, there you go. A mild cold to America. COVID to America. We'll say that. Yeah. A mild cold to America. Yes. Nothing radicalizes people against the oxymoronic Western civilization quite like the actions of Western civilization. Good one, Brandon. I like that one. Keep showing that plaque. It's right back there. Thank you, Kuznetsky Bassane. Eric Suarez says Westerners wouldn't mind. Sorry, we will get rid of that. Perfect. Westerners wouldn't mind young girls having OnlyFans, but draw the line at burqas. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Good point. Derek DeHart, thanks for the $5. 25 or 30 years ago, President Carter said Israel has over 200 nuclear weapons. Dude, says Mark Pugliese, that Mossadic stuff taught that to my students every year for 20 years until I retired. Thank you for that, Mark Pugliese. Appreciate that. Miriam Cotton says Catherine is there to encourage male MAGA to think with their tools. Saying death to Iran instead of America gets you laid. See? Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Mark Pugliese, Keat, Mahmoud OD is good, but he tells you how IDF is getting its ass kicked. Very therapeutic. Thank you for that. They sent a U.S. carrier, says Fat Not So Fat, in the year it's supposed to be decommissioned to Iran, setting up a false flag event to change people's opinions. Lorian Brightbill, thanks to the $19.99. I was looking forward to abusing some pain meds after the dentist, but all I got was ibuprofen. Damn. Yeah. I've been given pain meds before. I never took them because I was always afraid they would feel too good and I would get hooked on them. So I never actually took like the strong stuff.
I took it when I had pins put in my ankle because you ain't getting through that without painkillers.
Yeah, no, some of that. Yeah, like in those circumstances, you would need
yeah, they did feel a little too good.
Yeah. Yeah, you were talking about that with Jimmy because he got some pain meds for his kidney stone. Yeah. Brock Sampson, thanks for the $5. Tucker accused of obsession with Israel. Congress, the Senate, and pretty much all of Washington constantly filleted Israel, but Tucker is obsessed. That's right. That's right. All right. What do we got here on the Rumble side? EO Shush, you guys are tough on Tulsi for the constant flip-flops, but I think I could fix her. Maybe. It's going to take more than $2, EO Shush. Marco Rubio family also fled the Batista dictatorship. That's right. Yep, that's true. $1 Million Trooper, I know a couple who were stationed in Iran under the Shah. They could hear executions by firing squad every Tuesday and Thursday from their apartment. Yes, we had military bases there. For Zen's sake, of the Weinstein brothers, Eric is the foaming at the mouth Zionist. Brett was really more ambiguous about it. Still fears a second Holocaust, but at least he's anti-infanticide and hates Netanyahu. Yeah, I mean, he also did say in the wake that Israel is going to have to be brutal in its response.
Yeah.
I mean, that's licensed to commit.
When he was doing his promo for Rescue the Republic, they had Jimmy on. And he was really trying to pressure Jimmy, and McCardle jumped in.
Yeah, every time Jimmy would go on about Israel, Weinstein would try and jump in, and she would break it up because she didn't want them to get into a fight. That's what it seemed like to me.
Yes, that's how it played. Yes.
You guys don't like Death Cab to Cutie, Death Cab for Cutie. I don't like sensitive white male music.
Yeah, it's Death Cab for Cutie.
Death Cab for Cutie, not too cutie.
It's for Cutie.
Kawaii Cowboy, that's funny. The timeline shrinking so much that the U.S. propaganda machine collapses under the weight of its contradictions was every box on my bingo card. EO Shush says, I'm MAGA and anti-war because if we bomb the crap out of Iran and they flatten it, they won't have roofs to throw the gates off of. Thank you, EO Shush. Appreciate that. Okay, let's see here. You mentioned Lindy Lee is a billionaire. She's a big fundraiser, but I'm not sure she's that rich. No, I think she's that rich. I think she's extremely rich. I'll look that up, but I've heard she was a billionaire before. But yeah, I will check that for you. But yeah, I'm pretty sure she is like really up there in net worth. I'll have to try and find that figure. Can't find it right now, but I'm like Ted Cruz quoting the Bible. I don't know. It's in there somewhere. I'll get it for you. But yeah, she is very, very wealthy. I know that. And I heard she was a billionaire. So perhaps I've been misinformed. But all right, we got one more segment on the day, and then that's a wrap for us.
Okay, with all of this attention on the apocalypse, nobody's been paying attention to the big, beautiful bill. 71% of Trump voters oppose Medicaid cuts. You know, even more of them oppose World War III, but that's not making much of an impression. Here's Steve Bannon warning a few months ago about why they better not arbitrarily and insensitively mess with Medicaid.
Difference. The Republican Party that you talk about with Grover Norquist is dead. Okay, the electorate has totally changed. We haven't changed the apparatus on Capitol Hill. That's why we still have these fights. They want to cut $880 billion out of Medicaid, and you can't do it because MAGA is on Medicaid because there's not great jobs in this country. Okay.
Yes, MAGA's on Medicaid. This is just a week ago, Trump talking about speaking with Josh Hawley about removing Medicaid cuts from the BBB.
Hawley said he had spoken with you about potentially removing cuts that were in the House passed bill to Medicaid that would hurt Trump voters in rural areas. What are your thoughts about that?
I did speak about that. We're really talking about waste, fraud, and abuse. And Senator Hawley's a great senator, good guy. And I did speak to him, and we want to make sure that doesn't hurt anybody, you know, because it is about waste, fraud, and abuse. That's the only thing, and everybody wants that.
All right. So in spite of what they're claiming, it was always obvious that at best they were going to use procedural and process hurdles to make it harder to get Medicaid under the guise of waste, fraud, and abuse. There is not enough true waste, fraud, and abuse in the system to get the kind of money that they need for tax cuts for rich people. That's what it's all about, folks, as we will look at once again. But they made this bill that was already going to make a lot of de facto cuts to Medicaid, and they made it worse. Senate GOP leader faces pushback as members blindsided by Trump bill. This is Josh Hawley, who has kind of been the leading voice against making these kinds of cuts.
through them, and he said, "Oh, well, that's very surprising." He said, "I'm surprised that they made all these changes, and to the degree they did." And I said, "I am too." He was real clear to Senate Republicans just 2 weeks ago: don't touch anything else on Medicaid. Take the House framework, tweak it if you need to, but do not do anything else. And this Senate framework is really, it departs from his framework big time.
So he's claiming he called Trump, and Trump didn't know that they made these changes in the bill, which, I'm sure that's true. I'm sure Trump was too busy trying to figure out how he's going to thread the needle between avoiding getting the 15-inch strap on from Miriam Adelson and not losing his base. So he's probably not paying any real attention to this. Senate Majority Leader John Thune is facing strong pushback from members of the GOP conference over the Finance Committee's piece of President Trump's tax and spending bill, which largely ignores GOP senators' concerns about Medicaid cuts and the quick phase-out of clean energy tax credits. Senate Republicans who raised red flags over Medicaid spending cuts the House passed say they were blindsided by the Senate's version of the bill, which would cut Medicaid by several $100 billion beyond what the House proposed. Now, anybody who paid any attention from the beginning said, well, they're not going to go to the Pentagon, so they're going to go after Medicaid. They are warning that the Finance Committee's language will cause dozens of rural hospitals to close in their home states, require lower-income Americans to pay more for medical procedures, and shift costs onto the states. GOP lawmakers and aides ascribed Thune's decision to add even bigger spending cuts in the bill to his sensitivity to the broad desire within the Senate Republican conference for more deficit reduction. Now, there is a way that you could get deficit reduction without taking away people's health care. You could take away rich people's tax cuts, but they're not even considering that, it seems. Right. Some Senate GOP sources note that Thune won his contested race to become Senate Majority Leader in November by picking up more support from conservatives than his chief rival, Senator John Cornyn. But perhaps a more important factor in Thune's decision to move in the direction of deeper Medicaid spending cuts is that one of his top priorities is to make several corporate tax cuts in the bill permanent. Making those tax breaks permanent requires finding hundreds of billions of dollars in spending cuts to offset the cost and comply with the Senate's Byrd Rule, which does not allow provisions passed under the special budget reconciliation process to add to the deficit outside the 10-year budget window. So here's a little more from Hawley about how this is going to particularly impact rural hospitals. Guess who most of the people voting in rural districts vote for?
Is that the Senate has decided to completely depart from the House framework when it comes to Medicaid and the provider taxes. I was told we've got a fix on the provider tax issue. We're going to help rural hospitals. There's nothing in here for rural hospitals. In fact, what they're doing is lowering the provider tax to make it even worse. So it's like we're defunding rural hospitals in order to pay for extensions to the Green New Deal. Like, I don't get it at all.
So the Congressional Budget Office.
Okay, so by estimates, the extension of the Trump tax cuts and his new tax cuts, the low end estimate of what this would cost, $5 trillion on the low end, $11.2 trillion on the high end. Extending his tax cuts, anywhere from 4 to 5 trillion-ish. SALT tax relief only affects very rich people, $200 billion on the low end, $1.2 trillion on the high end. So right there, if you get rid of the SALT tax relief, you wouldn't have to make any of these cuts in Medicaid that they're talking about. This is how obsessed they are with giving tax cuts to rich people. You want to talk about corporations, it stimulates investment. No, it doesn't. Not when they have as much money as they have now. What study after study has shown is when the corporations are this fat, all they do are stock buybacks to juice the price of the stock. They're not lacking money for reinvestment. They have more than enough money to expand if they need to right now. They have never been richer. They've never been more profitable. And you're going to beat the bushes to take health care away from people in an environment where literally the rich have never been richer. Corporations have never been fatter. And you're going to squeeze the budget like this to give them more tax cuts. It is incredible.
And the SALT relief, just very quickly, that's mostly rich libs because those are mostly rich people in blue states with high state income taxes.
Yeah, that's how they figure they'll get some Democrat votes.
Right.
And look at who these tax cuts go to. This is the personal, not the corporate. It's mostly going to benefit the richest 20%. 68% of those tax cuts go to the richest 20%. The next 17% go to the next richest 20%. The bottom 60% gets a total of 15% of these tax cuts. If you're in the poorest 20%, you get 1%. You get 1% out of those tax cuts. Richest 1% would wind up, based on estimates, $78,370. So you're talking about Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates. You think these guys would even notice an extra $78,000 a year? You think they would even notice that amount of money? This is how much these people hate you. This is how much they hate working people. This is how much they hate poor people. This is how much they hate anyone who's not already rich. What little joke of a social safety net this country has. They are willing to go to this extreme to shred it, even for their own voters. These rural hospitals are mostly serving Republican voters. That's just a reality geographically. We know how people vote by region. Rural areas tend to be heavily Republican. They hate the very people who put them in office so much that they're willing to do this to stuff money in the pockets of rich donors and corporations. Amazing. Amazing. This is why, and we're post-duopoly. We don't say run back to the Democrats. You get to the same place slower with the Democrats. Yeah, like they're not going to do it like this, but the effect of Democrats over time is the same because they're largely funded by the same people. If there's anything you can say to them for them, they have a certain technocratic acknowledgement that if you push desperation far enough, it causes such social disorder that the knock-on costs to their class are not worth driving people to that point. So you got to give them a few crumbs here and there. Whereas Republicans just like bootstraps, exactly. Grab those bootstraps. So yeah, I'm not going to say that there's no difference. In the end, the overall drift towards feudalism is intact under both parties. The Republicans are just not even in any way trying to hide it. And this is what they need the immigration spectacle for, to keep you concentrated on that while they're doing this. I'm just going to say, when you take the totality of their agenda and whatever they do get through, I don't think they're going to be able to go to this extreme because they need every vote virtually. They're going to have to give something to people like Holly and Susan Collins or Murkowski to satisfy them and get them to vote for it. But whatever they pass, when you take that in combination with the fact that the country's essentially experiencing a quiet boycott, people aren't going to want to come here to study. They're not going to want to come here to teach. They're not going to want to set up businesses here. They're certainly not going to want to take vacations here. You take this at the same exact time that they're gutting healthcare for everybody. I don't think people are full, and starting a war in the Middle East on top of it. I don't think people have fully wrapped their heads around what a hellhole this country is going to be within the next, not 5 years, like a couple of years. It's going to be a total hellhole here.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about this, so some news just broke. Trump is saying he will decide within 2 weeks as to whether or not to strike Iran. 2 weeks. Now, 2 weeks, that puts them right up against the self-imposed deadline of July 4th for this big, beautiful bill. And we're going to have to see what the timetable is of both of those two negotiations, because if he goes to war with Iran, then there goes whatever political capital you need to pull a coalition together to get this bill passed. How are you going to get this bill passed? You're already hanging on by a thread. It's already, well, first of all, you're not hanging on by a thread. As it stands, you don't have what you need to pass this bill right now. But you start a war with Iran, now your coalition is just in shambles. So how does it get done at all? So yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see how that plays out. And yeah, when you look at between the war with Iran, between ICE running out of money unless this bill gets passed, between the cuts that we just talked about in this bill, they are setting themselves up for an electoral wipeout just through depression of their own base. Like, the Republican, who's going to show up to vote for the Republicans if all of this goes the way it's looking like it's going to? Like, there's going to be no turnout. There's going to be no, you have Tucker Carlson screaming about how this war is a huge mistake. Who's going to show up to vote for these people in 2 years? Like, the Democrats could end up with supermajorities without even doing well. Like, they don't even need to do well. They don't even have to perform.
Just for showing up.
Just for showing up, just by default, they could stumble into a 60-seat majority in the Senate. It's not outside the realm of possibility. Like, you're talking about doing such damage to your own base on every level. Who is going to show up for you at this point? It's really impossible to see how they generate any kind of turnout whatsoever.
I mean, if I know Democrats,
yeah.
If anyone could find a way to lose to this clown car, it would be the Democrats.
Yeah, we will have to see. We will have to see. All right, folks. Well, we are going to take some more rumble rants.
They're going to run on making transitioning mandatory.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, they'll have to figure out some way to do that. Seriously, Russ, get the fuck out of Manhattan ASAP. What's going on now is exactly where I bugged out in 2012. Either that or get an extremely large school desk to hide under and fuck Israel. Thank you, Hillary Hinton. Yeah, man.
I mean, the thing is, like, if I'm going to move, I'm probably just going to leave the country rather than to move to another part of this country.
Right.
Like, if I'm going to go to the expense, I'm out.
I'm out. That's it.
I'll probably go to Spain.
There you go. Him and G
They
says
say
people,
Spain is pretty. I've never been.
Yeah, Spain's supposed to be nice. People should stop making 101 Dalmatian jokes about Tulsi. She only has 100 after meeting Kristi Noem. Haha, good one, Him and G. Appreciate
That's a good one.
That's a good one. I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is fuck you, Tucker. Thank you, Kevin G. Appreciate that. Kevin's on fire today. He's got jokes today. Judy Denmark, thanks for the $20. Appreciate that. I aspire to be seen as a sleazy feline, but I think I'm too old now. By the way, congrats on 100,000 subscribers. Next up, 500K. Thank you, Judy Denmark. Appreciate that very much. Kenman, thanks for the $50. Let's have a cowbell for Kenman. Appreciate that, Kenman.
Man.
Says, I love Semites. I have a great anti-3 generations removed who I am told was a Semite. I never met Auntie Rose, originally from Switzerland, but I do have some of her writings, which I will share. Well, thank you, Kevin G. Appreciate that. Otacon says, as Norman Finkelstein, you're such an unbelievable asshole. Congrats on 100K. It's a big club, and now you're in it. Thank you, Otacon. Appreciate that. Not quite. Not quite. Maybe at the million mark, the million plaque. Yeah. 2 Jews, Bible talk, and 1 cup. There you go, Stoop Sign. Thank you for that very much. $10 Rumble rant from first segment not read out. Credit card charge confirmed via email. Not impressed. I most likely won't donate again. We didn't get it. I didn't censor any super chats today, so I'm sorry about that if there was a problem. Aren't the Israelis mostly white Turkish in ethnicity and the Arab Jews are the Semites? Then there are the black Jews. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. 2 live Jews and much respected brother Teamsters. Hey, another $50 from Ken Texican. Beautiful.
Damn, yo.
Thank you. Would step forward from the abyss of ignorance. Well, anyway, Auntie Rose was verbose. Keep bringing the truth. Thank you, Ken Texican. Appreciate that very much. Very kind of you today. To all the people who don't give super chats or rumble rants are Amalek. Death to stingy audience members. Just kidding, of course. Hope your message gets out. I heard workers strike back organizing an anti-war event. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are. Shama just texted us about that earlier, right before we went on. I got to look into that. Identifying as a Jew if you don't practice Judaism is a mental illness. Stop tacitly perpetuating this. The cultural conflation is the same nonsense Zionists use to conflate themselves. Okay, well, you can mind your own business. Louise Brooks, thanks for the $5. Only 13 of 50 states ban child marriage. Another thing to cite as they try to manufacture consent against a barbaric country. Wow, it's interesting. Only 13 states ban child marriage.
Really?
Yeah, I've never heard that.
Really?
Kevin,
but what about the age of consent?
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I never knew that. Yeah, I know it's Death Cab 4 Cutie, autocorrect error, but they still suck. Their music is for sensitive guys who want a manic pixie dream girl. I don't think they're that bad. I was never like a big fan of theirs. They have some good songs. Ken Texican, Keaton, did you work for UPS long enough to pay your initiation to the Teamsters Union? If not, maybe we can work it to make you an honorary Teamster. That would be an honor. You know, I did work there long enough to get an invitation to the Teamsters, but not to my knowledge. I worked at UPS during the summer of COVID and then the Christmas of COVID. And so it was so chaotic, no one knew what the hell was going on. So they told me in November that the books for union membership closed 28 days into 30 days of my intro probationary period, which I had a feeling was probably bullshit, but I never got the paperwork. And so I didn't know, because around the holidays, they transition from full-time to seasonal workers. So sometimes they'll close the books for the union and they'll just hire per diem guys to load the trucks for, the high-demand holiday season. And so that's what I thought they were doing to me. And that pissed me off because the whole reason I wanted to join UPS was to join the union for the benefits and everything. So when it seemed likely that they were not going to let me join the union, I just stopped showing up to work. I didn't quit or anything. I just stopped showing up. Because during COVID times, you could just do that because they hired so many extra workers. They couldn't keep track of who was there, who wasn't there. They would send a lot of guys home in the middle of the night because they were overstaffed. Some days they were understaffed. So I just stopped showing up. I just kind of quiet quit once I figured I wasn't going to be allowed to join the union because I could make more money driving food around than doing that. So I quit. And then 3 weeks after I quit, I got a packet from the Teamsters inviting me to join. I'm like, well, thank you for the invite, but I don't have a place to work. I could join the union, but I don't have a job to show up to because I quit. So that's what happened.
I could actually join the Teamsters if I wanted to because I'm still a licensed horse and carriage driver.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, see, so I could have joined. They sent me the information. I would have had a union membership. I'd have had no gig, though. I had no gig to show up to, so there wouldn't have been much point. But yes, I was invited. So thank you, Ken Texican. Appreciate that. Okay, what do we got over here? Gopnik Otaku says, what other accents you got, Russ? Like I said, you should be a voice actor. Well, he's got the Israeli accent pretty good. The Chinese accent, that went over well.
The Chinese is all right. I do some Spanish, some Slavic.
Yeah, see? Got the full set there. German Condor says, I lost my virginity in the back room of a sleazy feline. Karaoke Tuesdays and 50 Cent Pabst Blue Ribbon Wednesdays. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. That's a good one.
That was good.
Yes, good one, German Condor. Justin Kyle became a YouTube member. Thank you, Justin Kyle. Lucifer Fernandez says, Dr. Strange Cruise or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Suck Zionist Dick. I like that one. Good one, Lucifer. Thank you. Kuznetsky Bassane says Cruz is violating the establishment clause of the Constitution through his Bible-thumping support of Israel. Yes, indeed. Ryan Spence says Trump grabbed Ted by the sleazy feline. Thank you. That's a good one. Thank you very much for that. All right, folks, that is our show. We appreciate you all being here. So ends a long, long week for us. But yes, we appreciate you all very much for spending the week with us. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for Misty Winston's debut in the host chair of the Jimmy Dore Show. That's 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Please smash that like button on the way out of here. Please smash that subscribe button on YouTube and that follow button over on Rumble. Thanks, everybody, for spending the afternoon with us. We appreciate you all. We will be back Sunday night at 7 p.m. for our regularly scheduled flagship weekly broadcast. Until then, thanks very much for today. Be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.